petition.
O Lord, please grant us knowledge, the knowledge of our duties, wisdom in our decisions, and empathy with all those we encounter. We ask this in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
And if you would remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mayor, I'll turn it to you, and you can call it to order.
Thank you, Councilman Fitzwater. Thank you. I will now call to order the Monday, March 6, 2023 City Council meeting. Mrs. Donaldson, roll call, please.
Deegan.
Present.
Fitzwater.
Present.
Hensley.
Present.
Kimna.
Here.
Lester.
Here.
Schreiber. Spencer.
Here.
Spicer. Ward. Here. Wiseman.
Present.
Item 3, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And there might be something pulled off the agenda. Are we just going to do it at the time, Councilman Fitzwater? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Item 4, we have miscellaneous agenda items. Item A, Project of the Year Award and the Honor Award for the Bicentennial Bridge. And we have Mr. Bob Gilbert and some others here with us this evening, so I'd like to invite them to the podium. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. If it's okay, I think the slides are in order of B and then A, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So we've got a lot of hardware to, present tonight or to discuss. First, if I could have Steve Schultz, Eric Landwehr, and Britt Smith maybe come up behind me. I'd like to first take a moment to just recognize some special occasions, special awards. And we've got, I think, some hardware for them as well. We'll be presenting, but it's a very unique, thank you. Thanks for getting that ready. All right, we have a very unique honor as part of the American Public Works Association Missouri chapter, which basically covers all of the state minus Kansas City. Recently, the awards were presented to some individuals in the state for their public service and their dedication to the profession. These three gentlemen behind me here are all from mid-Missouri, and it's quite an honor, I think, and it's something to celebrate to say 3 statewide award winners are people right here that serve our community. And so we wanted to take a special moment to recognize them and their contributions. I think we're waiting for maybe the slide to come up with the names of those awards, but let me actually just go through some description, I guess, of what the APWA awards represent. First of all, again, right behind me to my right is Steve Schultz. He received the Public Works Leader of the Year for the private sector. He's a member of our team at Bartlett and West. And then right to my left is Britt Smith. He received the Public Works Leader of the Year in the public sector from the American Public Works Association. I'll read the description a little bit here of what that award is. This award seeks to inspire excellence and dedication in public service by recognizing the outstanding career service achievements of individual public works professionals and officials from both the public and private sectors. The primary focus of the award is on career service and the public works profession rather than on any one single achievement. So let me tell you a little bit about them. Steve, right here behind me, has served both on local and state boards of the APWA. He was a previous president of the statewide association. And one of the things I look back on and think about his service to our association is the organization of chapter lunches, events, and other training sessions. So when you think about a profession like we are all in, advancing that and continuing education is so important, and Steve's been a huge part of doing that for not only Jeff City area, also Springfield area, and statewide. So thank you, Steve, for your service. Britt also has many career achievements. I think most of you know that because of his service here at the city. He's been here since 2003 as the operations division director now, And you probably know this, but again, another outstanding achievement is his association leadership for the Missouri Society of Professional Engineers and the National Society of Professional Engineers. Britt has served our local chapter here in Jeff City as the president of our association. Here locally, by the way, several people in the audience are here from the engineering profession to celebrate with us tonight. He also now currently serves as the president of the National Society of Professional Engineers. Again, I'm assuming you all might know that already. I saw him on YouTube, actually, just last week, celebrating Engineers Week. So he's a famous engineer nationally now with us, and we're glad to see, again, him be selected and awarded this for his many contributions to leading in the profession. I don't see the slide up yet, but one more award is for. Oh, okay.
They have them. I think they're working on getting them up, hopefully.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a picture of these three gentlemen behind me, but the next award I kind of wanted the slide for because you got to leave it to engineers to actually put an exponent in the name of an award. But Eric Landwehr, right here, is the Cole County Public Works Director, was county engineer as well. Eric received the D Squared Award. You got to have an exponent, okay? All right, so this award, let me read the definition of this. The D Squared Award is the highest recognition award presented by the Missouri chapter of APWA. It was established in 1992 to recognize individuals who exemplify excellence and dedication in serving the public and the public interest through outstanding achievements and performance in the field of public works. The D Squared Award was named to commemorate and recognize the services of Mr. Alan B. DeCraft and Mr. Walter Davidson, who both worked untiringly on behalf of APWA, the Missouri chapter, and the goals of the organization. So hence the D Squared, to commemorate the service of other past professionals. So let me share a little bit about Eric. I think you guys, probably most of you know him as well. Also a local and statewide president of APWA, serving our entire state. You know, he also collaborated a lot, like what I mentioned with Steve, in terms of getting together people from our profession locally here in Jeff City as well as throughout the state to allow for continuing education and support of the profession. And, you know, one thing I think about that's really special with Eric tonight is he's usually the one at a lot of our meetings that's handing out the hardware and congratulating people for their service in our organization. But it's really special tonight, I think, to be here to congratulate him for his outstanding career achievement. I wanted to also say one more thing. All three of these gentlemen have been a part of this industry for over 20 years and more. And I think it's really important, especially when you think about the workforce challenges we all face in our businesses and in our communities, to have the longevity and the consistency of staff on city and county and consultants' part to serve the city it's really an outstanding blessing that we have in our community. So wanted to just celebrate these guys tonight. We do have the plaques to hand out to them. And I don't know if you guys would like to take a photo or anything else.
We would love to do that, and we'd like to congratulate all three of you on your hard work. I know that Steve, Britt, and Eric, the three of you have worked extremely hard over your careers and have had a wonderful impact on Jefferson City and Cole County. And so oftentimes, a lot of times that we may get the credit for projects as they're achieved, but the hard work that goes on in all of your offices is evident, and you all have really made a big difference and impact on our city. So we certainly appreciate it. Before we take pictures, does council have any questions or comments? Well, I know that they all would echo our congratulations to all of you. And Mr. Gilbert, we appreciate you giving that presentation. The screen does have the awards listed there, all three of them, along with the D Squared Awards. So they're all pretty cool, and we are very proud of you. So with that, if you all want to get your awards, and you can come up here, we'll give you some applause there. And I would invite our city council to come up, and if any of you have any, I know you said there's some other staff and friends and family that might be in the audience, so if everybody that's here for this would like to come forward, and we'll get a picture, we'll have council up here as well. So congratulations. front squeeze together a little bit more, please? There we go. All right, 1, 2, 3.
All right, if I might go ahead and continue as everybody finds their seats. I know you've got a lot on your agenda tonight. The next bit of hardware to pass out tonight is actually 2 different awards for the Bicentennial Bridge project to Adrian's Island. Had the pleasure of attending an event last week with the mayor where we received the honor award for the structures category from ACEC, that's an engineering companies association, for the project. We also, APWA, again, the same organization that just awarded the individuals, also selected the project as the project of the year in the structures category for projects more than $3 million in construction. So we wanted to just recognize that and share a little bit about the project and congratulate the entire team. You know, this kind of an achievement does not just happen. It was dozens and dozens of people locally who were part of achieving this. One thing I wanted to share too, just a quick stat. I just actually reached out to the Parks Department today and found out the counter that's out there has been counting visits on this bridge since March of last year. So basically, 11 to 12 months, not quite 12 months ago, the counters were put in. There were over 67,000 visits have been made on this structure since last March. It's an average of over 6,000 a month. So it's pretty amazing to think about the stats and the benefit that it's created in our community. Obviously, we know that it couldn't have been done without generous donations from BJ DeLong, among many other donors, about 50 donors in our community that made this happen. The awards are certainly engineering and project related, but I think it's really probably more important to talk about the community and the work that's been done by so many. I want to recognize a few people because I see others in the room here that I think should be celebrated for this as well. Obviously, Jeff City Parks Department. I see Todd here, but others in the Parks Department have been engaged throughout. David Bangy, I saw David. I haven't seen Johnny Voss yet, but Johnny Voss lived, out there to inspect the project as well. This project would not be done without their efforts. The Bicentennial Bridge Committee, some members are here. I saw Cindy, and I think there are others, but I'm not going to take the time to try to look around the whole room and get everybody mentioned, but a committee of volunteers, and then Bartlett and West's involvement, as well as Gradell Engineering Resources, another company here locally, was involved as well. I saw Tom Gradell here also. So big congratulations to everybody who's been a part of this, and thank you to the city for engaging and believing in it, and to see it all the way through to fruition. So thank you very much. And I have hardware that is presented to the city, and maybe I leave this with the Public Works Director. And yep, you already got yours on the APWA. I've got the ACEC version of that. I'm going to hand that to them.
Great. Well, we would love to have you come forward, Mr. Gilbert, and we'll do a photo with that as well, with all of the parties. I know there's a lot of you in this room that made that happen. It is pretty cool now to say that we have an award-winning Bicentennial Bridge. So
Absolutely.
Not just one award, but 2 here. So very exciting, and it was wonderful to be in St. Louis and accept that honor along with you, along with Bartlett and West. And I know that we can have the dreams, but it's the engineers that really get that off the ground for us. So we really appreciate you, Mr. Gilbert, along with Bartlett and West, and everybody who is involved in this, and having Gradell here, and all the donors and committee and everybody who's worked so hard on it. So any comments, questions? I would ask, of course, council to come up, and then our park staff and city staff could come forward. Also, the Bicentennial Bridge Committee members that are here, Gradell Engineering, whoever else, anyone who's here that had a say in it. I also like to recognize former Mayor John Landwehr, who was instrumental during his term in this dream as well. So we really are moving forward on the work that people did for generations. So we would ask that anyone who was involved that would like to come forward, come on up, and we'll present and accept this award. So thank you. Or awards, plural. Thanks.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
All right, very exciting things to recognize this evening. There's a lot to celebrate in Jefferson City. And that takes us to item 3. We are going to recognize Britt Smith's United Way recognition. So I'd like Mr. Smith to come to the podium. And Britt has been a longtime board member of the United Way from 2019 to 2022. So recently at their awards luncheon, they had the Community Service Award presented to Mr. Smith. And this says, Britt Smith, board member from 19 to 22, the leadership you have provided and the commitment you have shown has proven to be invaluable to our community. Thank you for your service on behalf of the United Way. And you've been very dedicated and wanted to just take a moment to congratulate you. So thank you for your service, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor.
So we all know that you worked on all the fund drives and everything else that's been going on and being a leader in the United Way for the city of Jefferson. Is there anything that you'd like to highlight or talk about?
Well, you know, one of the most important thing that we put, you know, we talk about our core mission in public works, and the C stands for improving our community. And we try to do that in a lot of different ways. And I look at United Way as just another component of that. United Way is just an outstanding organization, a federation of 28 partner agencies that are doing great works throughout our community and the region. And I couldn't think of a better group to be associated with. And you know, I'm a little humbled to be here taking credit for the wonderful work that the United Way does, because I'm a very, very small component of that. But I really get a lot out of it. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Britt. We appreciate your service and wanted to formally recognize you for receiving this award. And we'll have you come forward and we'll do a council photo. And if there's anyone else here from the city that's on the United Way committee and wants to come forward, I know Mr. Kroll is also part of that, and I'm sure I've missed some others. So anyone who'd like to come on up who works with us on United Way, but we'd like to thank you and present this to you. Thanks. Right, and item D, the last award for the evening, is to recognize myself, Mayor Turgeon, for receiving the Public Official Achievement Award. So it's kind of, it feels kind of odd to be recognizing myself, but I would like to invite Amy Schrader from Parks to give a briefing on the Missouri Park and Recreation Association Award.
Thank you, Mayor. That's not awkward at all. Each year, the Missouri Park and Recreation Association presents the Public Official Achievement Award to a person who holds an elected public office and has made an outstanding and sustained contribution to recreation and parks. The 2023 recipient is Mayor Turgeon, nominated by Jefferson City Parks and Recreation, and I believe that we have a video to show.
Mayor Carrie Turgeon has made a significant impact on the Jefferson City Parks and Recreation Department's ability to achieve, succeed, and thrive in the community during her tenure. Elected in 2015, she is currently serving in her final term. She actively promotes and participates in several parks programs and events, including having the Mayor's Golf Tournament at Oak Hills Golf Center, Mayor's Bike Ride, Mayor's Regatta Sailing Event at Bender Lake, and the Mayor's Christmas Tree. Mayor Turgeon offers an enthusiastic voice and presence that promotes parks, recreation, wellness, and community. Her advocacy for biking has greatly impacted the development of greenway expansions, involvement in community bike rides, and overall support of alternative transportation efforts in the community. She has been a major advocate in building riverfront access in Jefferson City by means of the Bicentennial Bridge and development of the Deborah Cooper Park on the riverfront. Her coordination with the DeLong family led to a donation that made this project possible. For over 50 years, access to the riverfront in Jefferson City was talked about but never acted upon. Mayor Turgeon made it a goal to have the dream come to fruition during her tenure, and she successfully made that happen. This project came to life in 2021 and has become an overwhelmingly popular park and destination in Jefferson City. Mayor Turgeon's support of the J.C. Parks Department and advocacy for health and wellness in the Jefferson City community have proven her to be a consummate public official and leader for parks and recreation. Congratulations, Mayor Carrie Turgeon, a 2023 MPRA Public Official Achievement Award recipient.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. This was such an honor, and it's just, we have such wonderful parks, and being able to be recognized for all the work that has been done in Jefferson City and be able to receive this in front of Parks and Rec associations from all over the state of Missouri was really, really cool when they presented that at the lake recently. So here's the award, and it's just a culmination of a lot of work from a lot of people, a great department and a great Parks Commission and a great city council that supports all these efforts that really make our community better. And as was seen in a lot of those photos that they pulled from being on the lake and having the Mayor's Cup Regatta to the Mayor's Cup Golf Tournament that Mayor Landwehr, it's kind of fitting that you're here tonight, started years ago, along with the tree lighting that you also started. So a lot of these traditions have been able to continue. And then the mayor's bike ride that I know I've already had some talks with incoming Mayor-elect Ron Fitzwater about keeping some of these things even going. And so keep that enthusiasm and being able to connect with the community has just been so exciting. So our Parks Department is really wonderful, and to be recognized for it was cool. I do know the signature project, of course, was the Bicentennial Bridge that they highlighted. And again, it's wonderful to be able to highlight that so much tonight and how important of an impact that has had on our capital city. So yes, we'll do a picture. So let's have our parks come up, and if council doesn't mind to come on up if they're interested, and we'll get a photo with this award as well. Thank you for the honor. Thank you. And in addition to Stacy and Todd, in addition to Amy and Todd, we have Stacy and Leanne here as well. And I'm not sure where they're over here. And I know that the mayor's tree always looks so amazing, and the landscaping always looks so good. And it's thanks to them for doing the hard work. So it's really cool, and all the arts that are in the community. So they really recognize a piece of this as well. So very exciting, very cool. Thank you. I'm very honored. Item 5, public hearings. We have a pending bill on the informal calendar, Bill 22-105.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri approving a PUD plan amendment for property located at 311 Bolivar Street.
Mr. Barron?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the clerk read, this bill pertains to property located at 311 Bolivar. So up on the screen is the property highlighted. It's located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Bolivar and McCarty Street. The property is zoned a PUD, a planned unit development. The property is currently developed with a coffee shop and roastery. And so up on the screen is a aerial photo of the property while it's under development. It's about a year old. And so there was a final PUD plan, and so up on the screen is that final PUD plan, and the particular, this proposed amendment to the final PUD plan would change the orientation of parking located toward the rear of the building along the alley called Wallway. And so the proposed amendment shown up on the screen, and I'll show a side-by-side comparison with the picture on the left showing 4 parking spaces that are accessed off the alley via a short driveway, and with a curbing in place along one side and handicap striping on the other. And the proposed amendment would reorient the parking, remove the curbing, and restripe it as 8 head-in spaces off of the alley. And so this matter was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their meeting on January 12th. They did the motion to approve failed on a vote of 3 to 4, so it is a negative recommendation that is forwarded to the council by the Planning and Zoning Commission on this bill. And the staff recommendation on this bill is based on fire department concerns about the impact on emergency services. They're located on the opposite side of the alley. I'd rely on the fire department to represent those concerns. And defer to my colleagues in the fire department and then also the law department.
Right, so essentially when this went on to the formal calendar, we got instruction to see if we can work something out with the property owner. And while we got partly way there, unfortunately I can't say that we got fully there. I've distributed to the city council, both electronically and in paper form, a document that I'm referring to as floor amendment number 1. Floor amendment number 1 makes some changes to Bill 2022-105. And essentially, it adopts the back page as the PUD, the amended PUD plan. That's the first amendment of the floor amendment, and then attaches the attached PUD plan as the exhibit for which the PUD plan, which it would govern. So the summary of floor amendment 1, the PUD plan would be changed in the following manner. It would increase the number of current parking spots of Wallway Alley from 4 spots to 6 spots. That's a change from the current proposal pending, which is to increase parking spots to 8. So by adopting the PUD plan, that would be reducing that down to 6. It can change the configuration of parking off of Wallway Alley from parallel to head-in. That's consistent with the proposed PUD plan amendment. It adopts a signage plan that identifies the parking off of Wallway Alley as tenant and employee parking only. And then finally, and this is kind of where we had some disagreement with the applicant, it authorizes on a kind of post hoc manner an additional 1,400 square feet of second-story event space area, an additional 400 square feet of exterior deck attached to the event space area, which was built in a manner that was inconsistent with the original PUD plan. And so essentially while we were working this out, this additional floor space just kind of came to our attention, and where we're having some disagreement with the applicant is does this addition of floor space require additional parking? This proposed PUD plan gives a parking calculation that is based on the general zoning standard parking standards. So under this calculation, the applicant represents that enough parking is provided. Staff, from a more qualitative position thinks that the addition of the additional square footage merits an increase of additional parking. From a just operational and anecdotal standpoint, we believe that the parking is already impacting the neighborhood through pretty significant on-street parking, on-street parking, and that there is opportunity for additional parking on the neighboring lot to the east of the subject lot that's also under control of an entity related to the applicant. I do not want to say that city staff is in a position to say that this parking issue is make or break, but we did want to bring the concern to the city council, because essentially these type of situations where you're talking about PUD plans without kind of strict reference to the parking standards, they're more qualitative in how to understand them. The parking standards are helpful tools, but they're not controlling from staff's perspective, and so it's up to the city council, we believe, to just kind of make a policy call and determine, does the council feel that this parking is sufficient, kind of given the as-built environment that currently exists there at the corner of Bolivar and in McCarty. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions and certainly turn it over for continuation of the public hearing.
Any questions of staff at this time? Okay, we will open the public hearing process. So we usually start with the applicant. So if you'd like to come forward. And typically how this works is we'll have the applicant, they have up to 10 minutes, usually don't need quite that long, and then anyone else would like to speak for or against will get 5 minutes following. So we'd like to welcome you, Mr. Shavercutter.
Thank you very much. And I do have Paul Sampson here with CMPS, and he's going to take some time, and I would ask only that if I need more time, that I be given some leeway. I've got some remarks, but that 10-minute limitation bothers any lawyer. We're really pleased to be able to be here tonight and pleased with the project that we have as the subject of this ordinance. Of course, Jane and I are the owners of the property, and the business that is operating there is the business of our daughter and son-in-law. The business is doing well, and there are several reasons for that. We were fortunate to be able to deal with the Jeff City Housing Authority to purchase the property. It was a blighted gravel lot, as some of you may recall. We've converted that blighted gravel parking lot in the heart of town into a facility that adds greatly to the neighborhood. The business provides a great product sourced from a direct connection with coffee farmers in the poorest parts of the world, providing those farmers and their families with a fair price for the quality coffee beans that they grow. The business, with the help of some great employees, adds to the local economy. Sales of coffee and other products contribute tens of thousands of dollars annually in city, county, and state sales taxes. We're proud of the business's owners, of course, and they provide excellent management with help from key employees. Finally, but importantly, we have developed a relationship with the residents of our neighborhood, some of whom are here tonight to show their support. We're pleased that we've been able to work with the city to reach what we hope is a solution, a compromise for both sides. It has not always been easy, but the product of those efforts, we think, is a good one. We hope that the council's support by your approval of the bill with the floor amendment that has been proposed. The floor amendment that you will have before you is a result of a process started by Councilman Spencer and Councilman Fitzwater, working together with Chief Schofield at the time. 3 weeks ago, we were asked if we would consider 6 pull-in spaces with city-designed fire lane markings and signage. For us, that seemed like a reasonable compromise. Limiting those spaces to tenants and employees would help us get some parking off of the street, making it safer for everybody. The fire lane markings and signage suggested by the city were acceptable to us and consistent with the city code. Additionally, we would be able to remove the trash containers from aside the alley there into a more suitable location on the far west side of the parking lot. Sarah and Tony will always be looking to provide a pleasing customer experience. They will not jeopardize that by poor management. Paul Sampson from CMPS has been helping with the engineering work and dealing with the parking issue, and I've asked him to be here tonight. Paul, would you take my place here for a bit and summarize some of the parking issues that you've been dealing with, if you don't mind?
Welcome, Mr. Sampson.
Thank you very much. I did bring some hard copies and a little bit bigger visual of the, I think, what's in the floor amendment, if I can hand those out.
Yeah, Mr. Molman can get those.
Thank you. Just, I want to make sure everybody has a clear picture of what we're talking about. As Mr. Molman had indicated, really the chief disagreement between the city and the developer right now is the city's purported need to have additional parking as part of the amended PUD plan. Basically, what I did was, and it shows on the front sheet there, is a parking space tabulation based on the as-built conditions in the building, utilizing the parking rates per square foot that were approved in the original preliminary PUD plan. And it's broken out per level and per use in each level. So if you would note, the roastery has 2 employees, and we're allocating 2 parking spaces for that. The coffee shop proper, 1,800 square feet at 1 space per 250 square feet. That was what was in the original PUD plan and approved. Allocates 8 spaces. We did allocate some additional space for outdoor patios on that lower level. Again, using that 1 per 250 square foot rate of parking that was approved in the original PUD plan, allocates 3 spaces. In the upper level, there's an Airbnb on the west side of the building, which allocates 2 spaces, which is per city code and also in the original PUD plan. There's almost 300 square feet of office, allocating 1 parking space. An event center space on the upper level of the building, which is just a change in use of the space in the original PUD plan. Again, using the event space parking rate that is in the city code of 1 space per 200 square feet, allocates 7 spaces for that area. And then there's also the addition of an outdoor deck, which was not in the original PUD plan, at 2 spaces. So that brings us to a grand total of 25 parking spaces. Again, that's utilizing the parking rates that were established in the original PUD plan. Going back to what's actually provided on site, the preliminary PUD plan that was approved by City Council originally had 19 parking spaces in it. Based on the original calculation that was presented and approved, there was 15 parking spaces in the original PUD plan, which basically gave us a excess of 4 spaces. When the final PUD plan was approved at the staff level, we wound up at 23 spaces. So as you can see, the total parking spaces that we have calculated as constructed, using the parking rates that were established in the original PUD plan, gives us a parking requirement of 25 parking spaces. With the addition of the 2 parking spaces in the alley on the upper level, we are providing 25 off-street parking spaces in this facility. In addition, there is on-street parking as well at 5 spaces, so we've got a grand total of 30 spaces, which we are proposing for the site. The rest of the plan, as far as the signing and striping of the alley, we got that information from Public Works, and again, as Jeff said, we really didn't have any objection to that. The one thing, and Jeff noted, on the upper level on the west very far west parking space. They would like the addition of a enclosed area to be able to put roll-off carts into on days other than trash collection day. Again, that gets the roll-off carts off of the alley, back up against the building, and then they'd just be rolled out to the alley on trash day. Any questions? That was a lot of numbers and things.
Any questions? Councilman Fitzwater?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I had my math right. On the B and B, it's 2 spaces per unit.
Correct, and there's 1 unit.
There's just 1 unit?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Lester?
So this has come before planning and zoning 3 times.
Mhm.
In none of those times has the event space or the deck been part of the plan. Why is that?
The original PUD plan was taken through planning and zoning at a very early level. That space was there, but not necessarily indicated as what that space would be. I mean, that was always a 2-story space. As the plans progressed and the detailed drawings were done, that space was indicated as being event space. So that's where that came from.
And I had seen somewhere that the event space was could hold around 50 people.
I think that is what the architects had shown as a occupancy level. Again, in this parking calculation, we were looking at the city code has a line item for event space, and that parking rate for event space is 1 space per 200 square feet. So that's what we utilized in the parking tabulation.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Sampson.
Thank you very much.
And we will ask if there's anyone else here that would like to speak. Sure.
Because I really feel like I need to deal with the parking issue. We've used the city code factors for uses of that building and come up with a number that shows that we have an excess number of parking spaces there by 5, I think, as Paul just mentioned, if the amendment tonight is approved. We've approached this project from the beginning in a very serious fashion. As a matter of fact, that very first slide that Eric showed, that was the PUD plan as it was approved, the final PUD plan as it was approved, clearly showed that each of the 2 floors had 3,000 square feet, 6,000 in total. The balcony was actually, that outdoor balcony was actually shown on that final PUD plat, which was approved by the staff in July of 2021. The designation of that space as an event center, frankly, was a fairly recent thing. We determined we had space there. It was nice space, and we thought that it was a good incidental use and frankly would provide a service for smaller events and around the community. So I think that we have enough parking there. There was an event there Saturday afternoon. I went by and took pictures. It was an event with 20 or 30. It was a baby shower. And it's still plenty of parking available on the street and in the parking lot at 1:30 in the afternoon. They manage that parking space in a way that, the event space in a way that it doesn't overlap with the peak periods where you see a lot of the traffic out on the street. Events happen after noon on Saturday or anytime Sunday because that's a day that the business is closed. Meetings that are held during the week are 10 to 15 people type of meetings, so very small usage. We've dealt with a parking issue. This is a fairly recent issue that's come up, and we've been dealing with that event space in a very 10 events in March, and haven't had an issue with the parking there. I'm just concerned that this parking issue is something that we ought to be able to manage on ourselves, by ourselves. And I'm sorry, I'm past my time, but Paul took 5 of my minutes, so I'm sorry. The city development agreement that Mr. Molman gave us forced us to put a $150,000 parking lot for 8 to 10 spaces of parking on property on the adjoining property. 8 to 10 additional spaces. In the meantime, I've talked to the folks at Loggers about leasing space right across the street in their parking space for, they charge a monthly fee for that space. I'm willing to lease that space from them. We own the property across the street, across McCarty Street, which was the former location of the roastery. There's space for 5 parking spaces in back there. Charlie Christensen at River City, I think that's called River Park, has told us that we could certainly talk with him about using space there during peak times, which is coincidentally their times when they're not even open. So 7 to 10 in the morning are the peak times for that business, and Big Whiskey, that those businesses aren't even open. They have plenty of parking there that they said that we could use. I think on the parking issue, we would prefer just to be able to handle, if the city feels like we need more parking, tell us to find more parking. There's a parking management plan in the city code that allows us to arrange for parking. We can, again, put parking on other property that we acquire. The state parking lot is right across the street, and I'm sorry to be taking so much time, but this is really important stuff, and frankly has kind of been thrown at us almost at the last minute. So we have all those options to provide parking for folks if it's necessary. Hasn't really been all that necessary for yet, we don't think, and yet Ryan sends me a development agreement that says build this $150,000 parking lot. It's not reasonable to expect us to do it, probably not legal to require us to do it, especially when the city code specifically gives us other options that we feel we have the ability to access. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer-Cutter. And is there anyone else here that would like to speak on Bill 22-105? Welcome.
I'm Joe Bryan. I've lived at 304 Bolivar for 25 years. The first 24 of those, 311 has been a gravel parking lot. And empty, and I'm all in favor of Mr. Schaefer-Cutter's proposed parking. On-street parking, there's empty parking places all along there, virtually all the time. So I'm 100% in favor of his proposal. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item tonight? Okay, seeing none, and none online, I don't believe. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing portion and take up 22-105. Any council discussion, deliberation?
I guess I need to take it off the informal.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Lester, Councilman Lester.
So I'll do that.
Okay, so that bill is now taken off the informal, and we will officially take up 22-105. Any discussion?
So I guess I would like to hear from the fire chief about this.
Chief Schofield?
Yes, thank you. And it has been a very long process, and I think in that process we really have worked very hard to try to come to some sort of agreement that everybody can live with. I do think it's probably important to maybe reiterate our primary concern, which has remained the same for the entire time that we've been having these discussions. And it's not for us a matter of parking as much as it is a matter of congestion in the alleyway, and then ultimately when traffic is pointed in the direction of the alleyway, they really only have one recourse, and that is to turn around inside the fire department's lower level lot. And that is our concern. There are many uses for that lot, and they are wide and varied. And we don't really, we've tried to articulate that at different times, and I can give you just a short list, but you know, we utilize that space for major events when we have those downtown. It's a staging area for equipment and personnel. It is also a location where we have our breathing air compressor, where we fill air bottles that need to be filled sometimes in an emergency capacity for the breathing air packs on the firefighters. It is also a place where some of our emergency response watercraft boats are stored for response capabilities. There's also critical communications equipment on the tower. We lease that tower space, and the city receives revenue from the tower. So when you, that's just a short list, and I don't have my full list in front of me, but that's the quick and assessment of some of the things that happen in that lower lot, in addition to just regular staff parking. One additional compromise that we made in this most recent agreement process was we committed to having our folks back in. I don't know if we can get the picture back up on the screen, but you know, we are there on shift work for 24 hours at a time, sometimes 48. And so we've committed to backing into those spots that are up there on the alley so that we're not backing blind into each other. So we feel like that's an important piece as well that we're willing to take on to try to make sure that we avoid potential problems. But with all those things under consideration, you know, the concern is, as this space is, the use and the change in the space concerns us. And I don't know that you ever got it. Councilman Lester, you asked the question about occupancy, and I don't know what the exact number is, but I've heard different numbers too. I've heard anywhere from 49 to 92. And so I guess my concern is, if you have 92 people in that event space, I don't know where they would go. I don't know where they would be forced to park. So that is our concern, is where do they go? Even if they're not going to stay in park, they've still got to drive over into the alley and then turn around and get back out. So that creates additional congestion in the area. So those are really our concerns with this. And again, we want to make it work. I think we're trying to make it work. But I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Any other questions for Chief Schofield? Councilman Deacon?
Chief, at this time, are you comfortable with this proposal, or would you like to have it changed? I can say that in the preliminary conversations about this most recent compromise, the idea of having more parking down below seemed like it would help us, even if the 6 spaces were approved on top in conjunction with additional spaces below. We felt like, as an overall parking package, that would be better, because it would direct more clientele to the lower level lots. So not having that as part of this conversation, it's hard for me to say, you know, what the current situation is. Obviously, you know, if the council decides to approve it, we will do our best to make it work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any other deliberation? Councilwoman Wiseman?
Yeah, so the 1,400 square foot event space, I actually don't know who I'm asking this to. Is that within the PUD plan? Was that contemplated as
I think we'll start with staff first, and then we'll go from there.
Not as event space, no. It within the building plans that came in at the same time as the final PUD plan, which was all reviewed administratively, is essentially treated as office space.
Well, I guess my question though is does it fit within the plan? Like, so I know that PUDs permit a little bit of change without coming back to planning and zoning, but I know that they don't permit a major change without coming back to planning and zoning. And so I just don't know whether this is a major or a minor change according to our code, and I'm just curious about that.
So as far as use goes, one of the items contained within a PUD plan is listing what uses would be permitted for the property. And we often attach what we refer to as an underlying zoning district, a zoning district to look toward in terms of future uses for the building should it cease to be what it is today. And so that underlying zoning was established as a C2. And so yes, an event space is a permitted use in that C2 district.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Wiseman, do you need anything from the applicant, or are you satisfied with the answer? Okay, okay. Any other questions, discussion, deliberation? Typically, we don't reopen the hearing, but you are welcome to come forward if it could just be brief, and that way, just a brief answer would be great.
Well, the brief answer to Councilman Wiseman is that the ordinance that was originally passed by this council in 2020 specifically says that any C2 permitted use can also be put into this building. And the city code specifically says that event centers are permitted in a C2 zone. Chief Schofield, you know, I've suggested all along kind of that the city maybe think about providing their own egress from the back of the building. Their uses of that back of the building are fairly rare and less than occasional, probably even. The plans, the city actually drew up three sets of plans to provide for that egress. The range of the price range of those plans was from $50,000 to $105,000, I think. City determined that was too expensive to do, and instead they are telling me now that I need to put in a $150,000 parking lot down below when I can go right across the street to Loggers and across the street to River Park and get the spaces that would be more than 8 to 10 spaces. So this kind of a focus on me building a 150,000 parking lot kind of has driven me a little bit crazy. We think we have certain property rights, and for the city to think that they ought to be able to just force us to put parking in there offends me, and it ought to offend the council, but I don't know where we're at on that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilwoman Ward.
I'll have to direct this to Mr. Schaefer-Cutter. How many spaces do you have at your property across McCarty Street in the little gray?
Yeah, there would be room for at least 5 spaces there. And combining those with the 5 that we can get from Loggers, okay, and the 5 we can get from, there's plenty of parking there. The parking is a red herring.
But you already own 5
Yes.
additional spaces that aren't counted in this 30.
Right, we do.
So, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other council discussion? And we would need a motion first to accept this. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Wiseman.
We keep talking about this extra parking. Where is that in this amendment? Or in the other stuff? I don't know where that fits in with today, or if that's just something that we're just supposed to guide staff on, or.
I guess I don't understand what extra parking.
The extra $150,000.
So
is
part of
that
the,
what we're talking about? I'm sorry.
No, so that's not in front of the city council. So essentially, when we were in discussions with Mr. Schaefer-Cutter, we identified the addition of the event space and represented that staff believed that the addition of the event space to the PUD necessitated a corresponding increase in parking. The neighboring lot was identified as being a potential solution to that. It is under the control of an entity that is related to the applicant, and so, in theory, could be available for the addition of parking. I believe we left the meeting as understanding that maybe that's something we could think about. I drafted up a development agreement that would accomplish that. Mr. Schaefer-Cutter did not want to sign the development agreement. I just think he's laid out tonight. So that is not in front of the council. We've not forced that to be in front of the city council. I think the only thing that the staff, I think from my perspective, this amendment to the BUD is fine. It's just, it does not address the additional parking due to the new event center space that we believe is warranted by that kind of new addition of space to the PUD plan. So, like I said, really we're leaving that to the city council as to make a determination of, does the city council believe under this combination of uses that the site is parked appropriately, and if the additional parking is needed, we have some ideas. Sounds like Mr. Shapercutter has ideas, but the addition of new parking on the neighboring lot is not in front of the city council. That was a topic of discussion that did not make its way to this level.
Okay, so that hasn't gone through the appropriate channels, and that's just an ancillary discussion that weaseled its way into discussion this evening, correct?
I think that's a fair assessment.
Gotcha.
All right, so if there's any discussion, otherwise a motion to accept the amendment, and then we will take up the bill as amendment. Is there a motion to accept the amendment?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye on the amendment.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we will take up 22-105 as amended. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deacon,
No.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
No.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Okay, the bill passes. All right, and item 6, appointments by the mayor. Mrs. Strope.
We don't have any appointments this evening. We'll have those at the next meeting.
Thank you. We'd like to take this opportunity to remind people to apply. There is an application at jeffersoncitymo.gov. We're always looking for volunteers for our various boards and commissions. Item 7, presentations from staff, consultants, and invited guests. We have the April 4th ballot proposition for Kids First campaign kickoff. We'd like to invite Mrs. Joni Henderson, and we have others with you that you're welcome to bring forward and introduce. Welcome. And Mr. John Landwehr, Mayor Landwehr.
I'll let Mr. Mayor Landwehr go first.
Well, we'll have Joni talk in a minute. Thank you. We'll be brief. On April 4th, there are a couple of city council races that will probably attract a lot of attention, but there's something else for the voters to think about that I think is very important for the future of our community. And that is our no tax increase bond issue for the Jeff City Public School District. Real quickly, and by the way, you all know how to contact me, certainly, and the other members of the committee. We have Joni Henderson, and we also have Ashley Freeman, who was unable to attend tonight. So feel free to call us anytime and get some more information. There's a lot of information out there. We won't burden you with it tonight. This is more of a heads up so that when people ask you, your community leaders, about what is this thing on the ballot from the school district, that you'll have a little bit of information and hopefully be able to help us point it out. This is a no tax increase bond issue, which is a little mysterious. It's a process, and I think the city has used it before, for example, with its sewer bonds. Sometimes as bonds get paid down, there are opportunities to refinance the bonds. You've acquired some equity that doesn't increase the spending, or the analogy is in a home mortgage. If you refinance your home, you can keep the mortgage payment the same. So in this case, the tax rate will not go up, but the payment of the bonds over time has freed up some funds that can be put to a good use. And this was actually announced as part of the package when these bonds were first floated 5 or 6 years ago for the second high school. So this is not a new thing. It's just coming forward now in a timely fashion. Not to get too philosophical here, but you know, when you turn on the news and you look at the issues in public education in America, it's on the news all the time. And my conclusion is that public school education isn't something that is solved at a national level. It's solved at the local level. If we want good schools in our community, it's up to us. It's not up to Washington, D.C. It's up to us. And we have the opportunity to address some very, very thoughtful measures that hit the hot buttons of what are challenges to public education in America. Early childhood. Joni has taught for 30 years. She's going to visit with you a little bit about the idea of creating an early childhood center that significantly expands the involvement of our public school system in those younger children, so that when they reach kindergarten and first grade and second grade, they have certain skills that they've already developed, and so they don't fall behind. They excel because they've had this early childhood. Anybody with kids or grandchildren know about how 4- and 5-year-old kids absorb and learn. And right now, our public school system only has the capacity to serve 150 kids. We're going to double that by building a new facility on land that the school district already owns, and we're going to double that to 300, and hopefully in future years we'll continue that program. The other thing is safety and security. Our 2 middle schools are 30 years old. It's hard to believe. 30 years old, Lewis and Clark and Thomas Jefferson. They've been excellent investments in our community, but they're 30 years old. They require upgrades, and some of those upgrades are for safety and security. Very, very much needed at that level, especially. The other thing that's a part of the package is technical education. To get our high school kids beginning to develop skill, nothing against reading, writing, literature, etc., but good technical education has to become a component of our American educational system. And we have the opportunity to do that by expanding Nichols Career Center. I didn't realize until I got involved in this, but Nichols serves 13 other communities, other high schools. It's such a great community resource, and it hits those challenges that are facing us nationally. So I'm going to turn it over to Joni. Joni has taught for 30 years, and I'd like Joni to talk a little bit about that early childhood concept.
Welcome.
Thank you. So if we didn't get you at early childhood, I'm not sure how we're going to get you excited, but the fact that we can double the numbers in our early childhood program open to the community, open to the people who live in the Jeff City School District, I have a feeling in a couple years we're going to be bursting at the seam there too, which is a good problem to have, that we could expand on that. But we need your support, and we are running a low budget campaign and doing a lot of things on social media. And what that means is if you could follow us on Facebook at JC Schools Kids First. There is a wonderful video on there that actually does a much better job than I can do, explaining several things that one of our current students, Isabel Duran, is part of. And if you have not seen it, you need to check it out. It's amazing. And when you look at it on Facebook, share it. It's great if you like it, but if you share it, we can reach more people. So, short and sweet.
Great. Thank you both for being here. John, anything to close? April 4th is the election date.
Right. April 4th, and it's no tax increase for some very nice projects to look forward in the future. So please talk to your constituents. People, you're our civic leaders. People talk to you, people respect you, and they ask you. And they'll say, what is this thing on April 4th? Hopefully you'll have a little bit of information now to share with them, and certainly call us, and we'd like to give you some more information and get behind this very important thing for our future.
Councilman Deacon?
Have they identified where the center will be built?
For Nichols or for?
No, for the Childhood Development Center.
Yeah, Councilman Deacon, actually it's in the First Ward.
Finally?
Yeah. So if you go next to Lewis and Clark Middle School, the school district acquired a farm. It's the Laux Farm, and it's right between Lewis and Clark Middle School and East McCarty. And you can see it from East McCarty. It lays very nicely there. And so the advantage of the new center will be that it'll also interface nicely with Lewis and Clark, so they can share some amenities and some facilities. That's the location of this step. Now, hopefully, in future years, as the demand is already there for early childhood, but as we increase the capacity to address the demand, hopefully there will be other centers. Matter of fact, we're looking specifically at some other potential sites on the other end of town. So this is not the last you'll hear about early childhood, hopefully, but this is the first step, and hopefully we're going to be able to expand to other parts of the city and address really an overwhelming demand for that level of education.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilman Spencer?
Is the Parents as Teachers program still in service?
I can answer that because I was just on their website yesterday. Yes, it is.
Great.
And you go through Southwest Early Childhood.
Great, and that's kind of complements with what we're trying to achieve with a more broader
That's right.
early childhood development program. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we appreciate the informational update for April 4th. And like you said, the video is really clear and fun to watch, actually. So if you haven't seen it yet, please do and share that. And with that, we appreciate you all being here this evening.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Item B, we have the J.C. Parks Cultural Arts Master Plan Progress Update from consultant Keene Independent, Mrs. Schrader.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the City of Jefferson Cultural Arts Commission identified a need for a strategic plan to help guide the city and community partners to enhance the quality of life for our residents, as well as looking at opportunities that would have a positive economic impact as far as it goes with arts and culture in the community. As a result, J.C. Parks has engaged with Keene Independent Research to complete that cultural arts master plan. We're joined tonight by Alex and Roxana with Keene Independent as we begin the community engagement portion of the plan.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Really appreciate the time tonight. I'm Alex Keene. I'm Associate Principal at Keene Independent Research, and I lead our arts and culture practice. We're a national consulting firm. We have many different practice areas, but really proud to lead the one I think is the most important, which is bring arts and culture to communities across the country. So we're going to be conducting for the next about 6 months a cultural arts master planning process, and we're kind of on our first discovery session today and tomorrow. So we had the amazing opportunity today to go on a pretty great tour of all of Jefferson City, including seeing Adrian's Island, which is just really impressive. We were telling the staff how impressed we were with that. But really the goal is to get lots of feedback from the key stakeholders and community members in Jefferson City to enhance your cultural and artistic offerings, and really make sure that you have a strategic plan moving forward. So I'm going to introduce my colleague, Dr. Roxana Filipowska, who will talk more about the plan.
Welcome.
Thank you. Evening, Mayor, evening, Council. And so I'll unpack the term cultural arts briefly because it is a big term. So when we talk about cultural arts, we're talking about visual art, we're talking about public art, murals, sculptures, etc. We're also thinking about signage and tools that when somebody's physically on the street and in front of a historically significant location, can they recognize it? Do they see the information about that place? We are also thinking about performing arts, thinking about theater, thinking about dance. So it's really a big term. When we come to our projects, we come with experience and expertise, but we do not come with preconceived notions of what that city should do when it comes to arts and culture. We are very data-driven and incredibly sensitive to the needs of the cities and the communities that we work with. So our method, first of all, is we are here as part of this discovery visit in order to get a sense of really to take the pulse of Jefferson City. So we are walking on Bicentennial Bridge, the award-winning Bicentennial Bridge, as of now, and spending a lot of time with stakeholders, community members, conducting a public outreach meeting that's taking place tomorrow. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Our public engagement, it combines in person with also different ways of getting involved. So we have a hotline that is open for the entire duration of the project that anyone can call at any time and give us feedback. We have a study website that anyone can give us feedback at any time. We also have a thing called a virtual workshop, which is, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to complete. It is open right now, and it will be open for about a month, where community members, residents can connect with that instrument and then just respond to a series of questions about arts and culture in Jefferson City, existing ones, and also what they are looking for. So that's a whole aspect of what we do as part of this study. We also do benchmarking, we do economic analysis involving population projections, demand projections, and we take all of that and create a plan that is, again, not designed to pick winners and losers and just assign resources. It's really meant to be a guideline for city council, for the city to make decisions. And so I'd love to just go and advance to the next slide, please. I don't have a clicker. So this is just to, again, give you a sense of the timeline. There are a lot of items, a lot of components of this process, a lot of deliverables. Thank you. But really just to show you that where that orange line is, we are really right at the middle of the process. So J.C. Parks engaged Keene Independent Research in January. We are conducting our on-site visit right now. We will be back during the summertime to present a draft of the master plan and all of those recommendations, once again getting feedback on site from the community. And so now is a really good moment for me to thoroughly encourage everyone to attend the public meeting, which is taking place tomorrow evening from 6 to 8 p.m. It's at McClung Indoor Pavilion. You'll receive more information about this project. You'll hear about the research that we've done for this plan so far, and also there will be ample opportunities to provide feedback. So we will have anonymous feedback gathering tools. We will have interactive activities as well to hear from residents and community members as to what you're hoping for out of this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? And I will ask, where can people find that hotline number?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah.
So.
And I know you have, there's a Facebook event, correct? I think I was invited to that for tomorrow evening. And we'll see, are there any other questions in the meantime from council? Councilman Fitzwater?
Yeah, I just had a question. The cities that you reference that you work with are much larger cities than Jefferson City. So how does what you do in, for example, New York City or Denver translate into our community with less resources?
You'll be happy to know we've worked with cities that are 5,000 people up to, in the case of Denver, 600,000 people. So I think arts and culture belongs everywhere. And we, with all of our work, we really think about how do you scale that. So what's appropriate for a larger city, a Kansas City might be, the Kauffman Center, right? It's a great example of an amazing performing arts center. It's appropriate for that scale of city. As you work your way down, this community still needs resources and still needs amenities and still needs to invest in, everything from recreation to arts and culture to everything else that you've really shown excellence in. So it's more building a roadmap, right? So one of the things we do is we look at your population projections, and we've already done that. We've kind of seen where is Jefferson City going from a population standpoint. And when you're doing benchmarking and looking at other communities across the country, it helps to identify, okay, what's some of those appropriate amenities and programs and types of investment that similarly sized communities are doing, and we'll identify what is Jefferson City already doing versus what could be done. So we really do scale the work based on the size of the community, your access to amenities, resources, programs elsewhere, and kind of where you're going from a population standpoint.
Councilman Fitzwater?
Just as a follow-up, do you work with the community in regards to, obviously other communities have community foundations, private foundations, resources that we may or may not have here to enhance the results that you come up with? So how do you fit that into your
That's a great question.
guidelines or the program that you'll bring back to us?
Yeah, so we're really, we think of this as like a strategic planning process. So we're going to identify areas of strength and then areas of opportunity. And so as you've mentioned, there may be a community foundation, something that's already here or is maybe not here, that we would say this is something where the city could strategically invest either time or resources in developing and growing, so that you, in the case of a community foundation, can help share costs between donors, grantors, and the city as well. So we look at all of that and say, okay, where are you really well developed? Where are there opportunities to do more? And I think, as I've mentioned earlier, the benchmarking is a huge part of that. What are other similar cities doing?
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Still pulling up that website.
All right. Looking up the website, and then tomorrow evening, Tuesday night, 6 to 8 p.m. at McClung Park. So any other information?
Yeah, so we do have a study website, and I apologize for not having it up immediately. It's www.keenindependent.com/JC Cultural Arts, and the hotline is 573-340-3988. Thank you.
Okay, we will plan to share that as well on our information so that people can access that. We want to get as much feedback for you as possible. All right, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Item C, financial update, Mrs. Perry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The first page that you have before you is the revenue model report. Just briefly, if you look down the right-hand column, projected over or under budget, you can see that there appears to be one category of concern that we'll need to continue to monitor, which is the fees, license, and permits. If you turn to the second page, at the bottom in the orange section, it will break down where the areas of concern within that category are. At this point, specifically building construction fees is significantly under budget. Really no other items here of concern at this point. We've had just a couple of months of collections, so we'll continue to monitor as we progress. The third page is the memo that you'd be accustomed to seeing for sales tax revenues. Collections for the receipt period of February were $95,901 over the projected budget in the general fund. That leaves the budget overage of $328,870 in the general fund. As you can see, as you progress down that sheet, capital improvement tax, park sales tax, and also the public safety tax are above the estimated projections that we have so far for the year. Again, these are only collections for the reporting period of December 2022, collection receipt as of February 2023. You've got some detailed information on the next 4 pages that outline the various assorted funds and how far over each month those are. And the final page is the estimated fund balance projections for FY23. We're still in the process of finalizing the FY22, but the number that I do have here for the FY22 unassigned fund balance of $8,132,000 is extremely close to the anticipated amount. So based on that, and based on all of the items that we reappropriated from FY22 to FY23, we've got an estimated FY23 unassigned fund balance of $5,947,152, which is approximately 15.65%, and that is a higher number than we discussed during the FY23 budget preparations. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Perry. Any questions? All right. Item 8, announcements by mayor, council, and staff. Our meeting schedule is at jeffersoncitymo.gov. We'll start with administration.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Finance.
Same.
Public safety. Councilwoman Ward, is there anything to report?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Okay. And public works and planning.
We will be meeting this Thursday at 7:30, I think, in this room. We've got a full agenda. Parking will be part of that discussion. So
Okay.
if you're looking for a place for breakfast, that's a good spot.
Great. Thank you. And I have a few announcements. First of all, the statewide tornado drill is tomorrow on Tuesday, March 7th at 10 a.m. And I would ask Chief Wilde if he has anything, or Chief Schofield, to add to our statewide tornado drill.
Sorry about that, having some mic problems. But no, thank you for bringing that up. Tomorrow is the statewide tornado drill. We will be sounding the outdoor warning sirens at 10 a.m. To test those out, as well as our rave alerts. So would encourage everybody from the community to participate, because obviously Jeff City is not immune to severe weather and tornadoes, so be prepared, but it'll be tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Great, and a good opportunity to sign up for the Rave app if you haven't already.
Excellent idea.
Very easy to do.
Yes.
Chief Schofield, anything to add on your end? Great. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. when the sirens go off, rather than just hear the sirens and think, well, of course, you know where you would go and what you would do, I would encourage you to actually take the action to do that and go where you would normally go. We do that here at City Hall. So tomorrow at 10 a.m., we will, along with all of city staff in the building, be taking cover where we normally would, and we actually get down on the ground as we would if it were a real event. And I would encourage you to think that if it was 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. and where you might be, and please talk with your families, your friends, and your coworkers. And of course, I don't have to stress that at all, because we've already been through the real thing. And if it wasn't for quick action and taking cover, we know the outcome. We were very fortunate that everybody took that seriously. But please take the drills seriously tomorrow at 10 a.m. when you hear them, and don't just think, but take action, please, during that drill. That's what it's for. So if anybody wants to come and watch us here at City Hall, we'll be doing the same thing. So any questions about that? All right. Also, other announcements that MSP tours started up again in March. So if you haven't already had a tour or would like to take another one, that's always a big thing when tour season begins at MSP. And also, I'll announce the dates for the bulky item pickup for trash is Wednesday, April 17th, begins west of Highway 54, east of 54, starts April 24th. Mr. Grellner, anything to add on that?
No, that's just our annual, spring cleanup. So I think they want items at the curb before 5 a.m. in the morning of near a particular area. So once again, I like to call it a swap shop, but that's what it turns out to be. But
Great.
That's all I have.
April 17th and 24th, and the information is on our website and likely on the Jefferson City Recycles Facebook page. And I would add that the Jefferson City Facebook page, which is City of Jefferson, Missouri, has information about the statewide tornado drill tomorrow. Any other announcements by council? And item 9, Lincoln University Student Representative Update. I would invite Octavia to give her report.
Good evening, Mayor Turgeon. Good evening, councilmen, and good evening, guests. I would first like to start off by saying that Lincoln University is sad to announce the passing of a Blue Tiger family member, Jaquan Edwards. Jaquan, a sophomore elementary education major, was a dedicated member of the Blue Tiger cheerleaders and was an admissions ambassador. Jaquan will be missed, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends today and in the days ahead. Lincoln University is competing in the Home Depot Retool Your School competition now until March 26th, and we encourage everyone in the community to vote. Unlimited votes can be casted by visiting retoolyourschool.com/vote. The top 10 schools in each cluster, and Lincoln University is in Cluster 2, will win a campus improvement grant of up to $150,000. If interested, we would like to invite everyone to the next LU MRRL Lecture Series event on Tuesday, March 7th from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the Missouri River Regional Library. Dr. Jane Frazier, Professor of English, will focus her talk titled Nature Through a Book on Nature and Literature. We are happy to announce that 12 Blue Tiger members from the men and women's track and field teams were selected to compete in the 2023 NCAA Division II Indoor Championships, which will take place in Virginia Beach, Virginia on March 10th through the 11th. And also, we would like to congratulate the men and women's basketball teams on a great season. And lastly, Lincoln University will be closed for spring break from March 10th through the 17th, and classes will resume on Monday, March 20th. Thank you, and that concludes the announcements for Lincoln University.
Thank you for those announcements this evening. Any questions for Octavia? All right, go Blue Tigers, as always. Also want to take a moment to recognize that we do have with us Mr. Clint Smith is here, who will be our new Planning and Protective Services Director. So Clint can wave there in the back row. And Clint begins, I believe, April 3rd, 4th, soon. So And we do appreciate Mr. David Grellner filling that capacity until that time, and we're glad that you're here with us this evening. Item 10, presentations from the gallery on specific bills, and these are 5 minutes, and we will go down the list here. So we start
Madam
with...
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Sorry. I might recommend Mr. Paul Sampson with Central Missouri Professional Services, I believe is on the list.
He
and
is.
It might be useful he's got a presentation prepared. It might be useful to hear the presentation for anyone who might be here to comment on the subdivision plat, the
Okay,
TC3C.
wonderful. We'll start with Mr. Sampson.
Thank you very much. Again, I do have some handouts. If I could get a hand from somebody, Ryan, thank you. And I'm going to preface this with saying I might need a little bit more than 5 minutes. I know the residents in the neighborhood have been at a couple of previous meetings expressing their concerns, so I might just ask for some leeway on the 5-minute time frame. And I will apologize for not being at the previous meetings. I had some scheduling conflicts and was not able to be here. And I kind of feel like, to a certain degree, there's been a lot of misinformation and disinformation that's been talked about this proposal. I'm here today speaking on behalf of Mr. Tim Joseph, who is the developer of the proposed subdivision. The proposal is to take 6 existing lots in the Roland and Marshall Street area, thank you, and divide those into 10 smaller lots of size that are similar to other lots in the neighborhood. Mr. Joseph's plan is to construct new homes in that area, approximately 1,500 square feet each. The size of the homes being dictated to try to make them more affordable for residents in the area. The existing lots that are in that area range in size from 1/4 of an acre to 4/10 of an acre. And if you look at the lots in that area is quite large for this area of town. And I've got a slide that will show that later on in my presentation. Again, dividing the lots into the 10 proposed lots will make the lots match the size of the homes, making the homes and the lots more marketable. Like I said, I've watched the recordings of both of the previous meetings. Particularly the first meeting, it seemed to me like a lot of the concerns were really more out of a fear of the unknown and not having information disseminated to them, and partially just due to the fact that this is a subdivision that's properly zoned, and the city process in that situation does not require notification of property owners. But due to those comments, the developer did meet with the neighborhood and held an open house public hearing. And at that meeting, most of the concerns turned more towards density, general changes in the neighborhood, and construction traffic. So what I'd like to do is, since the proposed density seems to be the biggest issue and to me is probably the easiest to try to dispel and provide more information for, looking at the history of the area I think is an important aspect. So in the first slide is the original Roland L. Wiggins subdivision, which was platted by Mr. Wiggins in 1941. On that slide, I've got the outline of the proposed. How do I do it? There we go. Thanks. So this is Roland L. Wiggins subdivision, platted in 1941. The red boundary is the boundary of the proposed subdivision that we're talking about today. You will notice that there are approximately 10 lots within the boundary of that proposed subdivision. The lots at that time were approximately 52 feet wide, and the area of each one of those lots was approximately 0.16 acres. In 1965, the Housing Authority of Jefferson City platted a portion of that Roland L. Wiggins subdivision and platted the right-of-way as it exists today of Marshall Street. The Housing Authority constructed the street, the stormwater infrastructure, and the sanitary sewer infrastructure in that neighborhood, and platted lots not through the Roland subdivision itself, but in the area north and to the west. Most of those lots and this was called Campus View subdivision, most of the lots in this area ranged in width from about 60 feet up to 74 feet. The property that Mr. Wiggins still owned at the time was not impacted other than the right-of-way for Marshall Street. In 1999, Mr. Wiggins' wife, Ruth D. Wiggins, replatted what was left of the Wiggins property into a total of, into a total of 8 lots labeled A through H. Those lots ranged in width from 85 feet to 148 feet with a lot area average of 0.32 acres. That's nearly twice as large as any of the lots in the existing adjacent neighborhoods. No homes were ever constructed on any of those lots. The proposed subdivision that we're talking about today would take lots B and C, which are located on Roland Street, would take those 2 lots and divide them into 3. Lots D and E, which are on the north side of Marshall Street, which are the largest 2 lots, would divide those into 4 lots. And on the south side of Marshall Street would take lots F and G and divide those 2 lots into 3. So here is the proposed TC3C subdivision as we have named it. Again, this is a total of 10 lots. All lots in the subdivision exceed the requirements of the RS4 zoning district. The average lot size is 0.19 acres, which is 36% larger than the zoning minimum. The average lot width is 62.5 feet, 25% larger than the zoning minimum. Many of the comments received from the neighbors are that these lots are too small for the neighborhood, that they don't match the character of the neighborhood. The smallest lot in this proposed subdivision is lot number 10, which is located right here. That lot is 6,458 square feet and has 56.5 feet of frontage. This is an aerial map of the Roland, Marshall, Jackson, Lafayette Street area. All the lots that are highlighted have either a lot frontage or a total lot area that's smaller than the smallest lot that's being proposed. What we're asking to do is not dissimilar to what's been done in the existing neighborhood. This is a layout showing where the houses would sit in relation to the roads, where the driveways would be located. Each home, as I said, was approximately 1,500 square feet. They would all have 1 or 2 car attached garages. Each home is being designed to fit the size of the lot. Because this is a unique situation, this is not a cookie cutter subdivision like we see in other parts of town where you might have 1 or 2 floor plans and we build them all over the subdivision. More or less each lot will have to be designed individually and tweaked in order to A, fit the size of the lot, and B, fit the terrain that the lot sits on. The topography is quite severe, being one of the reasons that it's probably still vacant. There's basically going to be 3 general floor plan layouts. On the Roland Street, basically on Roland Street, the street grade is at the lowest level and then the ground raises up to there as you go south. So the houses in this lot will have a garage in the basement. There will be a step up to the 2nd floor to where you would access the main living area. The back side of that floor would basically be at grade in the backyard. And then there would be a 3rd floor above where the bedrooms would be. The floor plans for the middle 3 lots on the north side of Marshall Street are still under development, so I don't have elevations of those yet. But basically, you'll have the garage and part of the living area on the main floor accessed off of Marshall Street. There would be bedrooms on the floor above, and then secondary living areas on a walkout basement on the lower level. And then this is a rendering of the 3 lots that would be located on the south side of Marshall Street. Lots 8 and 10. Basically, you'd have a garage. They'd be slab-on-grade construction. You'd have a garage that would access Marshall Street along with living area, and then bedrooms would be upstairs from that. I hope you can see that this is not something that was thrown together. There's been a lot of time and effort going through this development, trying to make something work on land that frankly is fairly difficult to develop, which is why it's still vacant after 60 plus years of originally being subdivided. Mr. Joseph purchased the property last year in hopes of being able to provide much needed housing in the area. The lots have been sized to try to complement the size of the homes while meeting all the zoning requirements. I think that's an important part of this, is that all the zoning requirements are being met by this subdivision. By designing the homes to fit within the landscape, the developer is attempting to minimize disruption to the adjacent properties. There's not going to be a mass grading project that's going to drastically impact the topography. Everything's going to be done to work with the topography that's there. I think another important point is that these are existing lots in a subdivision. Mr. Joseph can build today if he would like. The issue is that the lots are greatly oversized for the types of houses that would be appropriate for this area. If for whatever reason this subdivision does not pass, Mr. Joseph has the option of creating up to 9 lots through the administrative parcel division process. Those lots would still meet the zoning code minimums, but they would be smaller than what's being proposed right now. We really think that going through this subdivision process really creates the best opportunity for development, creates the best lots, the best situation in order to create lots on this property. Again, development is going to happen here. And I understand the residents' concern about that. I understand resistance to change. And I know that living through construction is not fun. I've done it myself, but really this is no different than any other subdivision that's developed in town.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you please explain how the 9 lots created administratively would be smaller than the 10 lots created through this process?
So, for instance, lot number, let me find it. Lot B, as it exists right now, is 117 feet wide. The minimum frontage in the RS4 zoning district is 50 feet. That lot can be split in 2 and create a lot that's 55 feet wide. 2 lots that are 55 feet wide. That's smaller than the smallest proposed lot that we're proposing in the subdivision.
Okay, so some of them would be smaller.
Yes.
Okay. Not necessarily. I took you to mean that all of the lots would somehow become smaller.
No. So basically, lot C is not large, or let's see, lot C is not large enough to split. Lot B would be split into 2. Lot D would be split into 2, and Lot E would be split into 2.
Got it.
Is it worth putting that slide up?
Yep. There we go. So, Lot B would be split, Lot D would be split, and Lot E would be split.
Great.
And all those would meet minimum zoning code requirements for the RS4 zoning, but they would be smaller than the lots that were being proposed through the subdivision process, because we can, so in this instance, we're taking Lot C and we're going to make it smaller. We're basically creating 2 equal lots out of, or 3 equal lots out of lots B and C. Whereas in the alternative, Lot C stays where it's at, and we create 2 lots in Lot B.
Yeah, I get it now. Thank you very much.
So again, I really think that the subdivision process is really really the best solution for this. Again, I can completely sympathize with the neighbors. Living through construction is not a fun experience. But the fact is that Jeff City needs housing. Mr. Deacon.
If I may, Paul, what is the guarantee that the houses are going to look the way they are? From what my understanding was, Mr. Joseph said he's going to sell the lot, and they can, once the lot's sold, the person can build whatever they want. It would be really nice if the neighbors had some kind of controls on what the facades are going to look like. Because a bunch of small houses with cheap siding could go up there rather quickly if you own the lot.
Right. You know, I think one of the options would be to, you know, look at subdivision covenants and restrictions. That's kind of a two-edged sword. You know, most of the times I tell clients that subdivision restrictions aren't worth the paper that they're written on, because they can be changed, and there's really no mechanism to uphold those. The only way to, you know, the city does not enforce restrictions. The only way to enforce them is to take somebody to circuit court. I think I really think that the main issue here is, you know, the size of the lots and right sizing the lots for the development. There's nothing to say that somebody couldn't throw up a 900 square foot cheap siding house today, and there's really nothing that could stop that.
That's my concern, because this neighborhood, I would hate to see that happen in the best approach I would like to have seen happen is the whole thing be a PUD, and so people had control of it. But
well, and I think the PUD is a bit of a two-edged sword from my standpoint. You know, and I think, and I have specifically talked to Mr. Joseph about that, but, you know, PUD does tie your hands pretty significantly as far as design standards and things like that. Again, he can develop 9 lots today and not be here. So I think, you know, if we're looking for guarantees, there's no guarantees in the world, but, you know, as we sit today, there's no guarantees either. So, I mean, the fact that a subdivision plat gets approved does not create any guarantees, and really doesn't make you any worse than you are now. But it does provide, you know, additional space for additional housing, which is desperately needed. And I think that's really the key piece to this.
I don't want to put you on the spot, so in essence, the renderings of what the houses are going to look like, that's moot. I mean, you can put in, that would be nice if they put it in there. That's the type of house that could fit in there, but what's going to go in there is the person who buys the lot. It's up to their discretion. Okay.
Mr. Joseph, if you want to speak into the mic so that people can hear.
First, good evening to the mayor and the council. Councilman Deacon, I never said I was selling the lots to individuals. I'm going to develop the lots myself. Okay, I'm a member of the community. I know a lot of people say a developer from Columbia. I'm not from Columbia. I'm going to live in the community. So what I put there, I want it to look nice. In terms of a CCNR, I spoke to Paul. I've spoken to Mr. Barron, and these are things that they presented to me in the early parts of this process. So it's not like I just came and threw it down. Paul is going to be working with me throughout this process, because there's some things, like some lots he spoke about, that they have some, they'll need his expertise. So I know I hear the concerns and I understand them, but I want this to look, I want it to represent me. So I don't come in here any kind of way. I'm a Marine first, and I don't come in here any kind of way, and I don't just do anything as halfway as someone, you know, may assume a thing. So, but with that, I'm gonna let Mr. Sampson finish.
I think maybe just to clarify for sure, basically what you're saying is that somebody comes to you, they will buy a lot with a house, and then you would build the house on the lot.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sampson.
I appreciate your time, and I guess we'll be back next time.
We have a few people here to speak, and then if they have any technical questions, we'll have you follow up at the end. So we have Mr. Michael Hall, followed by Jackie Coleman. Okay. Welcome, Jackie Coleman. Hi.
I have an 8 o'clock Zoom meeting, so I'm going to ask to come first. I'm Jackie Coleman. I live at 2050 Trenton Court. On my street, I happen to have a long street and a cul-de-sac. And I had an opportunity to visit one of the meetings. Have you ever lived on a cul-de-sac? If you're going to take 4 lots that have been zoned and put 7 houses in that cul-de-sac, up on Marshall Street, there's no parking. It's just absolutely no parking. The only way you get parking on a cul-de-sac is build a huge house. So right now, taking 4 zone lots, that should remain that way, to put 7 houses in that area, and there's no on-the-street parking, is already a parking issue from the high school. Now, I went to the meeting. It's a lot of moving parts here. And basically, I think, and I don't live there, but I have lived on a cul-de-sac on Cedar Ridge. There were luxury townhouses, supposedly. Absolutely no parking. You had to pull in your driveway or pull in your garage. Now, I don't quite know what's going to happen. I don't live, but my sister-in-law lives on Franklin Street. There's something wrong with this picture. Imagine these houses in your neighborhood. Just imagine that. I travel to Atlanta all the time, and I see those 1-story, 2-story, 3-story, it just will destroy that particular neighborhood from the aesthetic part of it. But to not have, to give the builder the rights to take something that's plotted into 4 lots and now put 7 houses and speak to the fact that it's okay. It's really not okay. They're going to build these houses, and there's a drop-off, it's a slab, and all of this is not clear, and I went to the meeting. I just feel like the city council, if nothing else, needs to take some time to go back to the drawing board with the developer and the gentleman that just spoke. It's almost like he never talked about the parking. There's no parking. The houses are going to be very close. So my thing here is, take it back to the board and think about it again. But if you give him the right, and I don't like the attitude to say he owns them, he can build whatever he wants to build. That's arrogant. Because that neighborhood is not designed, especially on the Marshall Street side. I don't care if he lives there. Those houses are too close together on a small cul-de-sac. I think every council member should ride up there and see what will happen to that particular area. I would rather the high school get it and people sell their land someplace and get their value out of their property. So I'm going to have to go to my Zoom meeting. But the reality is something wrong with this picture. And I think we talked about parking before for the coffee shop. What about parking for that cul-de-sac? Where do the people park? So it's just something wrong with this picture. I don't live there, but I would ask the city council to give some serious thought. You own the lot, but it's arrogant to say, I'll be able to build 9 houses and you're going to make them as narrow as you want to be. So thank you very much. I hate to rush, but I'm late for my Zoom meeting. And I support all the families that live in that area. And I don't want to say race, but how can you just kind of come in and decide to do this? You wouldn't do it out there in those subdivisions that were voted down earlier when the tax credit. People would not want this. It's just not attractive. But thank you for hearing me, and I'm going to have to leave. And I think we need to go back to the drawing board on this.
Thank you. Michael Hall, followed by Patsy Johnson. Welcome, Mr. Hall.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor and council members. I just wanted to start, of course, as of 3:30 today, the top of the hill of Franklin and Marshall is in gridlock, as per every day at the end of school. We already have a gridlock situation, so the concern of congestion so much isn't so many houses, but the traffic that it will add to our already pre-existing traffic conditions that we do have in the neighborhood. Obviously, there's no question about the ability of the homes that can be built or the company that plans to do so. But with consideration of the neighborhood and the previous conditions that we've already had to consider, again, we hear repeatedly that they understand and consider the neighbors for the construction constantly having to live in, but as we've stated, we have already lived in a construction zone for nearly 4 years at this point between the tornado and the modifications to our high school. I understand that again, they're a professional company. They know what they're doing and how they're going to go about doing it, but where's the consideration to the neighbors that have to deal with that on a daily basis for, as proposed, up to 2.5, 3 years to complete this subdivision project. So again, I would just hope that we can consider the neighbor and the community that already pre-exist in it, and that we can come to some sort of agreement and understanding, and we can welcome the new neighbors and new homes into our neighborhood. So again, thank you for your time and consideration today.
Thank you. Patsy Johnson, followed by Jocelyn King. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council persons, and guests. I'd like to start off by saying that I would ask each council person to vote no on this plan to change 6 lots into 10. It's too much. It's not right. We, as residents, have not been given consistent, correct information from the beginning. We have been told from the very beginning, from the meeting that we went to with Mr. Joseph, that we didn't matter, pretty much. And his words were, this was approved by planning and zoning by 100%, and I don't really need you all's approval. Even to the point to where the refreshments that were there stayed wrapped. That wasn't very inviting, and it wasn't a very comfortable situation. We started off, he started off at the beginning of the room, him and the contractor, and then they went to individual tables to where everyone couldn't even hear what was going on. The questions and answers were not openly heard. That's a problem. I asked, could I tape him just so I could get answers for the neighbors, because he was there and he said he would openly be there to answer questions. And some of our neighbors had to leave in order to, weren't able to attend because we had a longtime neighbor that had died and had a funeral in St. Louis. So I wanted to make sure I got accurate information for them, and I shared that with him. He said absolutely not. He turned around and told everybody, I will not be taped. I had this for you all, and I will not allow taping. So they couldn't get the answers other than what I told them. But it was a problem because it caused conflicting information. You could go to another table and someone would say, that's not what he told us. Okay, as far as affordable houses, our homes are not $300,000 homes. None of them in the area. It outprices all our homes. It's gentrification as far as we're concerned. You take a strip, you put that strip in our area, and it outprices us. And when it outprices us, it tends to bring higher price homes in our area, and it increases taxes, and it ends up steadily removing people of our economic level out, bit by bit. We talk about the foot area, African Americans first being able to only purchase homes in that area in 1960 and being allowed to be there. 58 years, we have been, and our family members have been in that area consistently, lived in those homes, maintained that area, taken very good care of that area for 58 years. Took pride in that area, in that community. And to look at someone come and mistreat us, first of all, and not talk to us in a decent manner and tell us we don't matter. I don't care what his race is. You know, because the bottom line, it has to do with respect of people in person. That area matters to us. You know, it's our home. We have been taxpayers for a long time. That area is important. And he has a right to build homes. That's okay. But don't let him put anything up there. Don't let him overcrowd us. Don't let him come in and put in the unknown and tear up and allow building and construction when we're overcrowded already. We even have residential parking. We can't park in front of our own homes. So that is not an area where you got a steep hillside full of concrete. You know, at the last meeting, I asked for each council person to honestly take the time out to go look at the area. I hope some of you did, because it's important. Because that's not an area just to, you know, just to go give that, you know, to just build on and think that it couldn't be dangerous and couldn't cause damage to our property.
We've hit the 5, we're over the 5 minutes, but you can wrap up.
Okay, I'll
thank
wrap
you.
up. But the other thing is when it comes to notification, you know, I would ask, because we've had this problem before of not being able to be notified and things just popping up, and we feel like we're under assault constantly of not being notification, but for the residents of this city, and not only just us. When builders come in from anywhere, or even business people right here in town, I would like to suggest and ask that the policy be changed to where planning and zoning give the courtesy of residents that have paid taxes here. Because when someone's gonna build or do something that could affect their property, change the policies to where we can get notification.
Thank you, Patsy.
Thank you.
And
I
next is
appreciate it.
Jocelyn King.
Hello, and thank you very much, Mayor, Council. I will take off from there as far as the notification. I understand if someone comes into an area, buys a lot, wants to build a house, that's fine. And it's not that we are resistant to change. But an undertaking like this, okay, that involves a subdivision and so many homes, and it will change the character of the neighborhood, we would like to be a part of the discussion. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, being invited to a meeting to discuss it, that our being there is going to change anything. But we would like to understand what is about to happen to us. I went around the neighborhood this week for a couple of days, including in the rain, to talk with neighbors on what they knew about this. Very few knew anything, and they were highly surprised and upset. Why is this change coming now? Why is it going to get so crowded? We have enough going on with Thorpe Gordon and the high school and the Nichols Center, okay? And now we're adding more people living here, and when there's a big event or something, it's just really going to be chaotic, because, you know, that has happened. Now, being nearby with the link, that has helped somewhat with more space and parking. But to not be a part of it, to just say, okay, we're just going to come in with this major change. I'm not saying that we are reserving the right of approval, but the neighborhood needs to know. This was purchased a year ago, 2 years ago. Why are we just finding out about it 3 weeks ago? I mean, it just seems backhanded to me, and it did to a lot of the neighbors I spoke with. Many of them feel the words affordable housing is being used with this. Now, I will say for sure, Jefferson City needs more housing, whether it be apartments, single-family homes, and affordable housing. Now I'm concerned with what's affordable housing, because most of the housing on these streets, when they were first built 40, 50, 60 years ago, they were homes that were $40,000, $50,000. And with the years of appreciation that have occurred since then, hardly any of them touch 200,000 or 300,000. And no homes in the area are being sold for that much. But all of these homes are coming up with the price tag of $250,000, $300,000. I mean, I don't know what the affordable housing is, but in this particular area, we're outpriced totally. And again, it would have been nice if we had input on that and reached some compromise on it or something. But everything was just without our knowledge. And like I said, if it was just 1 or 2 houses coming up because someone bought a lot, that's fine. Okay? And we're not resistant to change. But this is major change. The other thing is the construction. My understanding is that as soon as they are approved, the foundations will be laid. And then the units will be built as they are purchased. Well, I don't think all of the units are going to be purchased within a few months' time. The construction will go on and on and on. I myself and others in the neighborhood have serious respiratory disorders. There is pollution. There are hazards for the kids of the area and other people, the construction truck. This could go on for a year, 2 years, depending on how those units are sold. I haven't heard that there are any buyers ready right now, and there probably aren't until the council approves. But these are things that need to be considered, okay? Not only for the character of the neighborhood, but for the well-being of the neighbors who are there. We just would like to have that consideration, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'd be happy. We'll make sure that he does. Next, we have, we'll start with the list. We'll complete that. So Mr. Glenn Costalis is signed up, and he is here to speak on Resolution 2244. So switching gears to that. Mr. Costalis. Okay. Well, okay. Pardon me.
He's saying wait for him.
Hold on. Okay, excuse me. Well, this is people signed up to speak on bills or resolutions. So this is all bills and resolutions.
Number 10.
This is number 10.
That's where we're at.
So if it's my understanding, Mr. Costalis, you've signed up to speak on 2244.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you ready for me?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Mayor and City Council, several civic-minded citizens worked over many months to present you this RFP. This work was done with guidance from Mr. Cole and Ms. Corrigan. Our meetings were open, and most, if not all, were attended by Councilman Deacon, Lester, and Spencer, along with the mayor. The purpose of this RFP is for the city to contract a firm to conduct an in-depth study of the city's staffing and operations to develop a staffing optimization study for the city, which will show how efficient, effective, and productive the city's current performance is and how to improve. The study should be a review of the city's current organizational structure and workforce composition, determine optimal staffing levels, determine what efficiencies are present and where opportunities exist, assess the risk of current practices and staffing levels, and make recommendations needed to support the priority projects and workload of the city for current and future needs based on best practices. The results and recommendations should be designed to ensure the city has appropriate structure and staffing in place to be effective in accomplishing the city's priorities and services and to attract, support, and retain a highly qualified workforce. On behalf of those who worked on this project, I request you look favorably upon this RFP and give it your approval. Thank you for your time and consideration of this important matter.
Thank you, Mr. Costales. We appreciate your work on that. And when we
Are there any questions?
get to that item, we'll make sure and recognize there's others here as well who are from this committee. We want to make sure and recognize them. And I'm sure Councilman Spencer will have some items to add. So,
thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes under item 10 presentations on specific bills or resolutions, but it sounds like there is someone that was unable to sign up. So if they would like to come forward and have 5 minutes to speak, and just let us know your name and which bill you're here to speak on. It sounds like the same one, the 22-106. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is James Robinette. I'm a member of the NAACP. And in the past, we've worked with the residents of the Roland neighborhood. The last time we worked at their request was when the city wanted to expand Jeff City High School into a campus. And we were glad the citizens voted otherwise and ended up creating 2 high schools. But at the time, that expansion would have affected the existing neighborhood. And so we've been requested by the city again to, not the city, I'm sorry, the residents of the neighborhood again, to support them in their effort to get more resident input into the current plan, to this current subdivision plan. And so we do support their requests, even though the ordinances, as you said, didn't require neighborhood notification. We really feel that policy needs to be changed. But secondly, under the current matter, we think the City Planning Commission should get more resident input. Any way we can help, we will. I'm a retired state employee. I used to work for the Missouri Department of Economic Development. In my capacity with the Community Development Block Grant Program, I did work on housing projects. We even did a neighborhood rehabilitation program here in Jeff City with the city. But I also worked with other projects that we did jointly with the Missouri Housing Development Commission. In those projects, whether it was CDBG, there was a public hearing on the project because that was required by the regulations. Missouri Housing Development Commission requires city support of a project, but also engagement of the residents where a site's going to be developed. Clearly that wasn't done here, and so we're asking out of respect for the residents of the neighborhood and their concern that the city work with the residents and either table or the current project until there's more neighborhood input and engagement, or in some way work with the residents regarding their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. So, Councilman Lester?
No, I don't have a question, but the issue of notification on these type of zoning changes, my understanding is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting later this week is going to discuss that matter, and I believe begin a process to change that so that in the future notification and these type of changes will occur. Mr. Barron may want to speak to that, but that's my understanding.
Thank you, Councilman Lester. Anything to add, Mr. Barron?
So we've placed it on the agenda as a discussion topic in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We don't have any specific proposal at this point, but it's certainly been voiced, and so it placed it there for the commission's discussion.
Okay, thank you.
And those meetings are open if any of you want to attend and voice your concerns about that. You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman Lester. Item 11, consent agenda
Mayor,
is,
I
yes.
had an indication someone else wanted to speak on this under 10.
Okay, thank you. Okay, welcome.
Good evening, everyone, council members, Madam Mayor. My name is Barbara Brandel. I will give you as background the fact that I am not a resident of Jefferson City, but I own some property here in Jefferson City, and I am a taxpayer. And I am keenly aware of what Mr. Joseph would like to do. Mr. Joseph has been coming in and out of this community for the last 10 or 12 years. His medical service, as well as his military service, has caused him to, not be in this community all the time. But I can tell you that my experience has been that he likes to do things right, and that's why he met with Mr. Barron and his staff. He's met with Planning and Zoning, and he has obviously engaged very professional services to represent him and his development. Just for background about me, not only do I own some property here in the town, I've also had a great deal of experience with Mr. Barron, Planning and Zoning, the professionals that work here in the city of Jefferson. I believe that I have a really good reputation with them because I trust them as professionals. They know what they're doing. They're incredibly respectful to not only people like myself who own property, but they're very respectful to all citizens of Jefferson City, developers, contractors, but they follow the rules. And I think in this case, Mr. Joseph has absolutely followed the rules. And again, as background, Tim and I bought these lots together. And I have always been interested in rehabbing properties. And we discussed it, and ultimately he wants to do the new build. This town needs housing. I can't tell you anything you don't already know. We need housing. It's desperate. I own rental properties. We own rental properties. People call us all the time. People call us about renting properties. They call us about buying properties. There's just not much there, and Tim is willing and able to do something that this community really needs. And if I might speak to the residents and maybe the feelings that got hurt a little bit, I've known Tim a long time. He's a Marine. There's a gruffness about this man that can be off-putting. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. If you want to look at what predicts the future, you look at past behavior. And at this point in time with the city, this development, the interactions with Mr. Barron, the interaction with Planning and Zoning, I think the interaction with some members of the council, Mr. Joseph has done things right. He's not asked for any concessions. He's not asked for any tax incentives. He's not asking for you to do anything other than just let him build homes that the town needs. The other thing that I wanted to say, this community not only needs the housing, but it needs an expanded tax base. It needs investment in the central part of the community. As you go, pardon me? Sure. Sure. The lots have been here since they've been subdivided since the 1940s. I know it's rough because people have looked at these lots, it's open land, but the idea that there's no parking, let's think about not being the age that I am. Let's think about how young people are looking at transportation these days. Not everybody has a car. Not everybody needs 2 cars. Every one of these homes, from my understanding, has a driveway and a garage. We're talking about multiple vehicle parking for residents. Will there be at times challenges? Of course, there's challenges all the time. You've got Lincoln University, you've got the high school, you've got the link. There's traffic. You live in town. But we need investment in the central part of the city. Tim has done things right. Again, past behavior is the best predictor for future. I would ask the council, as a taxpayer and a person who is invested in the central part of the city, to go ahead and approve this, to let him do what's right for the community. He is going to live here. That's not just an empty promise. He'll do what's right. And I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, we will move to Councilman Spencer.
There was a concern that was voiced with what I call open foundations, but there's a code in the city that we don't allow open foundations to be exposed.
We'd have to defer to staff and get you an answer back on that one.
Thank you.
Okay, and we will, I think we're ready to move on. I don't think I missed anyone else. Okay, we will move on to item 11, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 12, bills introduced, 22-108.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a $25,000 agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the development of the Capital Area Active Transportation Plan in FY 2023.
Katrina Williams.
Yes, thank you. This was actually a resolution that was approved in November of last year, approving this agreement with MoDOT. MoDOT then requested an ordinance in place of that resolution. This is $25,000 that we would use towards the development of the active transportation plan. It would offset the consolidated planning grant that we currently use for the development of that plan.
Thank you for that summary. And there is a request to suspend or check mark by there. Do we have a request? Councilman Fitzwater?
Yes, I'd like to request that we suspend the rules and go ahead and act on this tonight. I mean, they're actively working on this project, so.
Okay, we have had a request. Any objections? Seeing none, we will move forward with 22-108.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a $25,000 agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the development of the Capital Area Active Transportation Plan in FY 2023.
Any council deliberation or discussion? Roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Schreiber. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Bill passes. 22-109.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, accepting the Evergreen Solutions compensation study, adopting salary adjustments, and approving necessary budget adjustments, supplemental appropriations.
Mr. Kroll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This bill would implement the 50th percentile pay plan as previously presented to the City Council and is recommended by the city's consultant, Evergreen Solutions. As I understand the intent of the City Council, the intent is to update our current pay plan to be more competitive in the labor market, especially given the recent compensation increases by the county and state, to begin to address some of the salary wage compression issues, and to continue to work towards making additional adjustments in the pay plan and or compensation in the future. This would be in addition to the lump sum increases the council previously authorized. It's important to note that the 50th percentile pay plan essentially puts the in line with the averages of the other municipalities that were in our target market. It is not to move all the employees to the midpoint of the pay range. Upon adoption of the pay plan, it's important to move employees from our existing pay plan to the new pay plan. In doing so, this will ensure that employees receive at least some salary wage increase. Staff recommends implementation method in which no employee would receive less than a 3% salary wage increase. No employee would receive more than 10% maximum salary wage increase, and the department directors and city administrators, subject to your approval, would be capped at 3%. No such increase would be implemented which may place an employee above the new salary maximum. However, no employee would have their pay reduced. In order to begin to address compression issues in an objective manner, the transition from the current pay plan to the new pay plan would be based on the modified hybrid approach discussed by Evergreen Solutions. This implementation may necessitate the city administrator to make some adjustments for any situations that may arise requiring such. The cost of implementation would be within the budgeted money noted in the bill, which includes use of up to $50,000 of the public safety tax funding for fire command staff. Since this item has been discussed previously, if approved with a check mark, thus approved on second reading, implementation would occur with the March 24th, 2023 pay period, and staff's available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Councilman Hensley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I request that we suspend the rules in order to have a third reading vote on this item this evening.
Okay, we've had a request to suspend the rules. Seeing no objections, we'll take up 22-109.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, accepting the Evergreen Solutions compensation study, adopting salary adjustments, and approving necessary budget adjustments, supplemental appropriations.
Any council discussion or deliberation? Roll call, please.
Hensley,
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Deacon,
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Bill passes, and unanimously from those in the room. Thank you for the support of that and for staff working to bring us some solutions. Appreciate that very much. Item C, 22-110.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending the 2022-2023 budget of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by reallocating funds currently appropriated for salaries in the general fund to various projects and by modifying previously appropriated ARPA funds to replace the salary funding within the general fund.
Mrs. Perry?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. During the fiscal year 22 and also during the budget deliberations for fiscal year 23, Council appropriated ARPA funds to a variety of community projects, and those ARPA funds have very specific deadlines on them for spending. And so what this bill would do is it would take the budget authority that has been put into the FY23 budget for salaries, and it would exchange that for the community use projects that were approved by council, and it would take the ARPA funds and it would then allocate those for use as general fund salaries. There would be no additional funds put into salaries than are currently budgeted. There would be no funds taken away from those community uses for the ARPA projects, and this would essentially eliminate any spending deadlines previously associated with the ARPA community projects. Staff has some concerns that some of those community projects may not be able to spend all of the allocated ARPA funds in a fashion that would fall in line with the deadlines, and this would be a way to ensure that the community uses that council specified are still able to be used, and those funds that are unused would be able to continue to be reappropriated for an indefinite period of time or a period of time determined by the council. And this would allow us in fiscal year 23 to utilize all of the ARPA funds that were provided to the city and not run the chance that we're going to have to return some of those federal funds because we can't meet the spending deadlines that are put in place by the federal government. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Spencer?
Do you have some, excuse me, do you have some examples that we could share with the public on that?
Examples of
Projects that.
Sure. This is any of the projects that were designated by council for third-party uses, and essentially What we are speaking of is actually taking any of the ARPA funds that have not been utilized at this point and specifying what those are going to be for coming out of the general fund. So examples that we have there would be the Lincoln University Health and Science Crisis Center. Council allocated $500,000 of the ARPA funds. That is one that we have a big concern about with the timeline of spending. The Hyde Park Burn Building, there was $1 million of that allocated. The High Street Viaduct, $1,077,000. Private property stormwater, the United Capital City Soccer Complex for $100,000. And I believe I might have missed somewhere on my list, there was MSP redevelopment for $1 million. So all of those things would now be designated as coming from general fund funds, and the ARPA funds that were received would be used for salaries that we would be exchanging those ARPA funds for. I do want to point out that this is a use that was recommended or has been recommended many times by the GFOA as something that they are suggesting communities do in order to allow them to spend those federal funds and be able to sever ties because of the deadlines.
This is also consistent with guidance I've received from the International Municipal Lawyers Association. They really encourage get the money spent as soon as you can and remove those deadlines, because to think that the federal government's not going to look for that money back is that's some positive thinking there that I don't think is warranted in this situation. So that's consistent with what I'm hearing from my professional levels as well.
Councilman Hensley.
Thank you. Sheila, can you explain to the room what GFOA means?
Sorry, that is the Government Finance Officers Association. They are the organization that guides us for many things, from general accounting standards to how they recommend we handle things within our financial reports and our ongoing audits.
Thanks. And nothing's changing about what we're spending dollars on. We're still going to be paying people salaries. We're still going to be spending money on those projects that you just described. But the point here is that we are taking these steps in order to ensure that nothing comes up that might prevent all of these dollars from being used in our community.
Correct.
Is that right?
And for the specified purposes that council has previously approved.
Right. And if for some reason an identified recipient was, say, decided not to go forward with the project, or something came up so that we wouldn't be spending money on an identified project, we would go through a process, first of all, of making everyone aware of that, and second of all, of reappropriating those dollars in a public fashion.
Correct, and that would be at council's discretion as to how those dollars were reappropriated.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other council questions or discussion? Thank you, Mrs. Perry.
Yes.
22-111.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri pertaining to additions to Chapter 31 and Appendix Y of the City Code.
Mr. Marash.
Thank you. Basically, this ordinance creates a new program to help upgrade private stormwater systems, or systems on people's property that have no easement, so there's no tie to city responsibility. So at our Public Works and Planning Committee meetings, we have an item where people can come and voice concerns about stormwater. And this kind of grew out of that issue. We had a number of them, all quite often. So Public Works and Planning Committee did discuss this for many months now, several months, to get to this ordinance. It works similar to our sidewalk petition process, and where basically a group of property owners, a property owner, whatever the case may be, every case will be different, I'm sure, and that's common with stormwater, but they'll come talk to the staff. This gives us another option. We can present them to maybe how they can overcome this issue, but basically there's a petition process. We work with them to put that together, and then they would get their neighbors or whoever's involved to sign that they would be willing to donate the easement. There's usually we'll include what the anticipated cost might be, so everybody's on the same page when they go out to sign this petition. We'd bring those back, and then subject to budget authority, these projects could be accepted by the city council and put in our construction program. So that's kind of in a basic way how it would work. Like I said, all these are very different. Each time you have a stormwater problem, it's very specific to the situation. But obviously this occurred mostly in older areas of town. You know, for whatever reason, the pipes were installed the way they were, but easements weren't dedicated. And be happy to answer any questions. And I believe right now we have $200,000 in the budget for this program, and be happy to answer any questions then. So.
Any questions? Councilman Spencer?
Yeah, I just would like to say thanks to staff for putting this together. I know we had some hashing out periods of give and take, and it might not be a perfect policy yet, but might be always room for improvement. And one question I do have is to announce to the public when we might start rolling this out, if it's passed, what would be the introductory period?
Yeah, I think in the language we talk about a certain date they would petition each year. Obviously, we're not going to make that. I believe it's March 1, but really throughout the year, you know, we'd encourage folks to contact us even on a normal year. Give us time to help them put this petition together. And this year, you know, past next meeting, I'm assuming, we can notify some people that I think we talked about notifying people that have been on past Public Works and Planning Committee meetings and let them know this program exists. I see one, and there was one. Yeah, there's still one in the audience today. And then we could just start working with them.
Thank you. Councilman Fitzwater?
Yeah, I would just echo the comments from Councilman Spencer. Staff has done a great job in kind of working us through this project. We didn't really know where we were going to end up, but I've been on Public Works for 6 years, and it's just frustrating to see cases come before us that kind of fall between the gaps. I don't know if this is the final solution. I think it gives an indication that we're trying to address those issues. So again, I think staff has done a good job of kind of maneuvering us through the process, and we got good legal guidance. Again, we may need to tweak it down the road, but at least in its attempt to show the community that we do know there are some cases that we need to be involved with, and I think this gives us a first good step at that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilman Kemna?
Yeah, and I know you said as far as the time frame of it, we've allocated $200,000, as you said. I mean, as far as this budget cycle, I mean, there's still an opportunity to utilize that this year. Is that, I mean, is
right.
that what I'm
I mean,
hearing you
there's
saying?
always an I mean, it's the money's in the budget for this year. I think it was ARPA money. If I'm losing track, but I think we just converted to general fund money, which does end in the fiscal year. However, it could be reappropriated if need be.
Mrs. Perry?
And just to clarify, anything that we move from ARPA funds to general fund will reappropriate from year to year. So it will not expire as others have. We're going to treat it as capital project money, so it will reappropriate. If there was $200,000, it'll be there until it's spent.
Councilman Fitzwater?
And I think just to reiterate what Mr. Marash said, to address the councilman's question, that March 1st date, I think we all agreed that we're going to, this first year, we obviously didn't hit that target. So, I mean, we will allow projects once, assuming council approves it, to be able to apply for it.
Okay, thank you. Bills pending, 22-107.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri amending the 2022-2023 annual budget of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by appropriating additional funds within the Police Department Fund.
Chief Wilde?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This bill is a request to utilize insurance proceeds from the loss of 2 police vehicles over the last year in the total amount of $50,237.73 to be applied this year towards the purchase of and replacement of a new vehicle to offset those losses. So be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions? Council discussion, deliberation? Roll call, please.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Deacon,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Bill passes. Item 14, informal calendar, number 22-106.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, accepting and approving the final subdivision plat of TC3C Subdivision, a subdivision of the City of Jefferson, Missouri.
Councilman Lester?
I'm going to leave it on the informal calendar in consideration that some council members aren't present.
Okay. Any other discussion on this item at the time? Councilman Spencer?
Just point of clarification, so how much more time does it have they can stay on the informal? Is it one more meeting, or
It's 3 meetings after it went on the informal, so if it went on the informal
it was the last meeting?
last meeting, so it'll be after the first meeting of April.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I would hope to bring it off next meeting.
Okay. Item 15, resolutions 2244.
A resolution authorizing the City of Jefferson to issue a request for proposals for an organizational and staff optimization review.
Mr. Kroll?
As Mr. Costalis noted, this will be an item to engage a consultant to look at the various aspects of the city organization, to look at efficiency and effectiveness measures. Is Mr. Costalis still here? No, you did leave. So the prior chair, Gary Wilbers. The current chair is Penny Quigg, and Mr. Costalis is a member, and there are a couple of other members on the committee as well. Glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, and I would like to point out we have some members of the committee here, and we appreciate your service on that. Any discussion or a motion to approve?
Sorry, so moved.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion on the resolution? Roll call, please.
Lester?
Aye.
Schreiber? Spencer?
Aye.
Spicer? Ward?
Aye.
Wiseman?
Aye.
Deacon?
Aye.
Fitzwater?
Aye.
Hensley?
Aye.
Kimna?
Aye.
Resolution passes. 2245.
A resolution of official intent of the Council of the City of Jefferson, Missouri for the issuance of taxable industrial development revenue bonds in a principal amount of approximately $60 million to finance a project for the benefit of Unilever Manufacturing Incorporated and authorizing certain actions relating thereto.
Mr. Molman?
Thank you. This resolution would essentially direct staff and our partners at the Jefferson City Regional Economic Partnership to begin working on a tax abatement and incentive program for a $60 million expansion at the Unilever plant existing off of Industrial Drive. So essentially, this plan is seeking real and property tax abatement, some sales tax exemption on construction, and also sales tax exemption on purchase of certain types of equipment that don't fall under the typical manufacturing equipment type of exemption. I believe we have Mr. Holzschneider from JC Rep is here, also with some representative from Unilever. But essentially, this resolution tells staff to work on this program and bring back to the City Council for consideration an ordinance which would approve a Chapter 100 abatement and incentive program through the issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds. Be happy to answer any questions, and I also encourage opening up to Mr. Holzschneider and our representatives from Unilever to explain further the project or answer any questions.
Welcome. We're happy to have you. You're welcome to come to the podium, and thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Right, my name is Michael Whelan. I'm the operations director at the Unilever facility here in Jefferson City. Right, and just to talk a little bit about Unilever in general. Right, fast-paced consumer product good company. Been here in the local area since 1966. Right, it's employed not only generations of family but also friends of the community. Right, we are one of the largest global sites within Unilever globally. We contribute over $1 billion annually in USD in revenue, which is also, trade agreements, et cetera. So again, 80% of the North America personal care liquid volume comes from this facility right here in Jefferson City, Missouri. So it is the largest, global personal care liquid company that Unilever has when it comes to, 4 main technologies that we do. We do shampoos, conditioners, body wash, and lotions. Right, Unilever also has many organizations within the ice cream business as well. The site employs approximately 500 people, right? And we continue to be one of the higher waged or competitive wage companies here locally. We have, again, from our standpoint, looked at, potential expansion and looking at optimizing our North American network. Part of that optimization of the network is really looking at logistics and logistics costs and the opportunity for us to look at expanding the back of the factory warehouse. Back to the factory warehouse, we send out approximately on a peak day 2,000 pallets of product a day, almost three trailers an hour. We currently do that volume today. Again, we're a hub and spoke operation, which means we don't hold any inventory here on site. We send it out within the network directly. The way the economy works today, or the distribution and logistics environment, one of the opportunities that we have is not being able to hold that product. Therefore, when that product is sent in hub and spoke within the North America region, it can create opportunities in logistics costs, moving that inventory around. The opportunity for us to put it back factory, the warehouse, will look to optimize, again, the network that we have and reduce logistics costs for the organization out of one of the most strategic sites that we have within North America. Again, we're looking at this from a competitive standpoint. This is not an approved project that we have. We're kind of taking a look at this, and again, on the return on investment associated with this. Not only are we looking at, in this particular area around this process and approval, but also a height variance as well, right, as we seek to look an ASRS system. The project here is not going to add nor take away any labor here at the facility. It's going to allow us to convert from one space to the next. Secondly, from that standpoint, we don't see any increase in traffic and or noise levels associated with this add. This doesn't add any mixing opportunities or won't increase any traffic in and out of the Jonesboro or the Jefferson City facility. So again, up here, talk a little bit about the site and again, the need for our ability to kind of look at this process and improvement for the investment here in the Jefferson City facility within Unilever. What questions do you have?
Any questions for Mr. Leland? And welcome, Mr. Holtschneider and Mr. Leland. We appreciate the over 50 years that Unilever has been in our community and a wonderful and major employer. And the volume and those numbers are extremely impressive. And we look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. And we hope that Jefferson City is a selected site for your increased expansion that you're looking at. And we appreciate you being here this evening as well.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Holtschneider, anything to add there?
Yes, good evening. Just a couple quick comments just to add on to the overview of the project. Just to break it down, so Unilever, one of Jefferson City and Central Missouri's largest private for-profit employers, about 500 direct employees, but also numerous supplier manufacturers that are also based here in Jefferson City that 100% nearly of their business is directly tied to Unilever. So both their direct and indirect and impact is extremely large within this community. And the proposed project would be, adding value to the current operations as they stand today, which, looking at the future of what Unilever does in Jefferson City, I think it greatly opens up those opportunities. We become a much more competitive site when you look at the Unilever kind of global footprint where, so much of the production is done here, and the ability to warehouse and distribute directly from the manufacturing site makes us extremely competitive for future expansions on the manufacturing side as well. So what this allows and what is critical to, I think a favorable decision will be dependent upon as well the capability to build this at a size that goes beyond the existing kind of code or regulation as far as the height of the facility. So that has been requested and will be heard at the Board of Adjustment coming up here next week. So a couple things that we really excited for this opportunity. It's a huge piece of, I think, the Unilever footprint and what it provides in this community, and I think will continue to be a huge asset for many decades and years to come.
Thank you, Mr. Holtschneider. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Molman.
Yeah, I just want to correct a previous statement from the pre-meeting. So a lot of times these Chapter 100s can take a little time to put together. I'm being told that Unilever is very interested in making the investment, and so the plan is to proceed a little quicker than typical. So I think at the pre-meeting I said quite a few months. it could, still probably in the realm of months, but maybe not as drawn out as some previous Chapter 100 deals. So hopefully we can see something fairly quickly in a relative short order and get the investment going. So.
Great. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
We had several there, motions and seconds. Any further discussion on the resolution? Roll call, please.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Yes.
Spicer, Ward,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Deacon,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Kemna,
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Again, thank you, Mr. Holtschneider and Mr. Whelan, for being here this evening. Appreciate what you do for our community. Resolution 2246.
A resolution authorizing the city administrator to approve an environmental assessment.
Mr. Molman?
Thank you. As indicated in the pre-meeting, we put this on really kind of as abundance of caution, but in reviewing the previous submittals on this particular grant for this Cole County EMS project, we believe we have sufficient authority and that this resolution is not needed. So we appreciate City Council's willingness to entertain this, but ultimately we don't think this resolution is necessary, and we can move forward quickly and efficiently on this project.
Thank you. Item 16,
Do I need to
presentations.
officially?
It'd be good to get it on the record.
Okay.
So
Councilman
I'll withdraw
Fitzwater?
this resolution.
Okay, it's official. Thank you. Item 16, presentations from the gallery on other topics. We have Mr. Richard Elgin signed up to talk about Jeff Tran changes this evening, and we are happy to have you here. Welcome.
Madam Mayor, council members, I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you on this important matter of the changes of Jeff Tran Transit Service, the new bus schedule. Again, my name is Richard Elgin. I'm legally blind, and I'm a daily rider of the bus transit service since 2013. I do have a full-time job. The reason I'm here is I am concerned that Jeff Tran may not have followed the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protocol for implementing major changes in the bus services, specifically the new alternate bus route schedules, which includes the elimination of some of the previous routes. This went into effect February 6th. And it's already implemented, and that is without significant public notice. The federal Title VI protocol on public notification is specifically outlined for any programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance and are protected under the United States Constitution. I believe that Jeff Tran disregarded the Civil Rights Title VI protocol prior to implementing those major bus changes. These drastic changes have life-altering impacts for many citizens, for Jeff City, including myself, which has a negative impact to the riders, which include their civil rights under the United States Constitution. My civil rights were violated by Jeff Tran when the changes were implemented, which has restricted my access to excuse me, key daily commitments and responsibilities. These changes impact my ability to get to work, which threatens my financial livelihood. Some other Jeff Tran riders have already lost their jobs. For example, I lose an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half in the evening because of this change. That's 45% of my pay gone. And I didn't have a word to say about it. And I may lose my job completely. Now, the way I read Title VI, Public Notification Outline, many of the steps of the protocol were disregarded, and those responsible for those changes to the bus routes. First, there was not a level of quality of service change analysis performed. This is a written report required to be submitted in advance to the city council members prior to the public hearing. I could not locate proof that this report was submitted to the council before they implemented the changes. I have reason to believe that the report was not prepared at all by the following: the lack of personal interviews with bus riders. There were no written surveys handed out and presented to the bus riders, no questionnaires, and no discussion with the riders to the Jefferson before they implemented this major change. I do not believe the changes made fall under the category of the written definition of emergency service change as described. These changes were planned in advance, poorly thought out, and unjustifiably executed into action. This is clearly just poor management. Also, the procedures for involving the public when contemplating major transit service changes, and that's quote, was completely disregarded as outlined in the Title VI protocol. Additional requirements by Title VI that were not done was that 2 published notices posted in the local newspaper addressing the reason, notification, and presenting the date of the upcoming public hearing. These include a 30-day and a 10-day publication prior to the scheduled public hearing. They are required. Neither were published. Printed notification materials were not prepared by Jefferson and or posted in the required locations, as in all buses affixed to the bus shelters at the Housing Authority office, Dooley Hamilton Towers, the Veterans Administration, and the Public Library. In summary, I honestly feel that Jefferson has violated my civil rights, and therefore I have filed a formal written complaint to the city under the Title VI, Civil Rights Act of '64. Not only to the City of Jefferson City, a copy was also forwarded to the Federal Transit Administration in D.C. Jefferson disregarded the Title VI protocol for public notification to administer major changes in the bus services. Again, any programs or activities receiving federal financial assistance are protected under that Constitution. I'm also seeking consultation with a civil rights attorney who believes that my individual civil rights have been violated, not to mention other riders. That's because Jefferson did not follow the federal protocol for major changes to their services. There is probably there is the probability that a ministerial act has taken place, and most likely individual liability for those whom took part in the decision-making and approval to the Jefferson's recent misrepresented service changes. Because of the reasons stated here tonight, I would like to see the City Council immediately reverse the decision of the implementation of the alternate bus route back to the original previous schedule that they've had for, I don't know, at least 10 years I've been riding. So I thank you for your time, and I may answer some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Elgin. And any questions? Otherwise, I would refer to Mr. Mullman. Councilman Spencer first.
Mr. Elgin, I apologize for any inconvenience that you're encountering with the change of schedule. Do you think that this was done voluntarily, or I just want to make sure the public understands why the changes were implemented?
Well, I did speak with the supervisor at Jefferson, and his excuse was that they did not have drivers with CDL license. I beg the difference because I just tonight saw 4 office employees that were former drivers. If they have problems with drivers with CDL licenses, they should get those personnel onto the buses and drive. They can hire somebody to listen to the radio or schedule pickups for handy wheels or do other office tasks without a CDL license and all the training that they are required to go through to operate buses and have the liability of transporting disabled people on handy wheels and or just the regular public on public buses. So I just think it's poor management, and
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Elgin, I'm wondering if it would be best to connect you directly with staff, and maybe you all could exchange information and visit here, Mr. Mullman or Mr. Marash, the best way to proceed.
We've received Mr. Elgin's complaint, and we'll address it kind of according to our procedures.
Okay, thank you.
yes, now I did mention, I did put in a written complaint which kind of outlines what I've said here also, so.
Yes, thank you.
Councilman Spencer?
I guess to address some of the concerns, though, are we in legal jeopardy with what he's already pursuing?
I'm not gonna discuss a current complaint in open session.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Elgin.
All right, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Item 17, any council and staff discussion of presentation topics? Item 18, any new business? Item 19, approval of February 20th, 2023 closed session minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Motion passes. Item 20, closed session. Pursuant to Section 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri, the chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss the following.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any unfinished business?
I move to adjourn.
We've had a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Everyone have a great evening. Thank you.